This is Atomic Shinobi and today I am going to narrate second and final part of what if Naruto and Sasuke were forced to rely on each other. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Since they haven't yet found a suitable replacement, Delta Squad has been operating as a three-man squad for nearly a year following Naruto's promotion to Anbu Captain. The gold standard of never failing an assignment had been maintained, even with a man down. Even if Naruto continued to view Mumi's passing as a failure. If you consider a steady stream of A to S rank missions to be normal, the time had gone by without too many problems. At just 12 years old, Naruto had already established a solid reputation for himself during his brief time as captain. He was nearly at Sannin level and seemed to be getting stronger all the time. Sasuke had established himself as well. Despite not being a captain, he was still regarded as an elite jonin due to his abilities. Despite her long-standing respect as a Kenjutsu master, Yugao had become even more feared in the past year due to her diversification of fighting techniques. In summary, Delta was the team to call when something needed to be done. Hinata continued to train almost daily with Kurenai and Anko, and she is now performing at a high level of Chunin. As an elite jonin, Itachi was content with his retirement and would even be picking up a genin team tomorrow, which leads us to our current situation. Naruto stood next to Sasuke in front of Hiruzen's desk and said, "You called for us, Hokage, Sama?" "Yes, Naruto-kun, I have a long-term mission for you too." "What is it?" "We have confirmed that in the Chunin exam finals, that Orochimaru intends to attack our village. You two will pose as genin on a team alongside Hinata, so you will be stationed inside the Chunin exams, should he try anything." "I see. So we will be genin for the next 7 months?" "That is correct. Do you accept?" "Of course. Anything for the good of the village." "Thank you, Naruto-kun. Be at the academy tomorrow at 8 AM for the genin exams." As Naruto and Sasuke exited the room via Shunshin, Naruto said, "Yes sir." As the two of them strolled down the street, Naruto remarked, "Well, I never expected that." "I didn't either." Sasuke sulked, "Damn, we're going to have to do D ranks for the next 7 months." "Shit. No kiddin'." The following morning, as the two students entered the packed classroom, Iruka said, "Well, hello Naruto. Sasuke, it's been a while since I've seen you two." As they moved to 2 vacant seats in the front of the room to await the tests, Naruto responded, "Yeah, we've been home schooling." "Alright everyone, it is time for the start of the written exam," Iruka said as he started handing out paperwork. "Please turn them in on my desk and wait out on the training field when you are done. You have 1 hour to complete the test." After distributing the final one, he turned around just in time to watch Naruto get up and make his way to his desk. "Did you have a question, Naruto?" As he put the test down and walked out of the room, Naruto said, "Nope, I'm turning my test in." Iruka assumed he had simply given up and gone, so he picked up the paper and took a look at it. "They're all okay, holy shish. Iruka thought, how did he? But was cut off when Sasuke put his test down and walked out of the room, so Iruka hastily picked it up to check it as well. "But it's different enough that I know they didn't cheat. Damn, he got them all too. What kind of homeschooling did these kids receive?" Sasuke and Naruto waited another 20 minutes on the training field for Hinata, the next person to finish. "Hi, Hinata. Chan." Naruto called out to her with a wave before she turned and walked towards them. "So how did you do?" "I think I performed well, Naruto-kun. What about the two of you?" They both said, 100. At the same time, "And how do you know that for sure?" "The most esteemed Anbu captain in the village is taking a genin test," Naruto said, pointing to himself. Sasuke said, "Elite jonin here, in agreement. Since only you and Ino are aware of us, we simply need to show up to maintain the act." "Yes, I suppose you're correct." After an hour, when Iruka came out to announce the next section of the exam, all of the students had completed the written portion and were seated in different locations. As the students approached the circle that was drawn on the ground, Iruka said, "Okay everyone, now will be the taijutsu portion of the exam. Please gather around." "Alright, the rules are pretty simple. When I call your names, step forward and bow to your opponent. You will be judged by myself and Mizuki. The first to be knocked out of the ring, or to submit, will be the loser." The students then engaged in combat as Iruka continued to yell names. "Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki, please step in." As the two entered the ring and bowed, Naruto remarked, "Actually, it's Naruto Namikaze now." With a tone of surprise in his voice, Iruka questioned, "As in Yondaime Namikaze?" "Yes, I'm his son." As Sasuke and Naruto vanished from view, Iruka uttered, "Oh, begin then." With a loud crash, they collided in the middle of the ring, shocking everyone nearby with their speed. After a few minutes of this, Iruka decided to declare a draw and pass them both before yelling more names. Iruka spoke once more after every student had finished their spars. Alright, now will be the ninjutsu portion. Please form 2 lines. One in front of me, one in front of Mizuki. When it's your turn, step forward and perform a bunshin, a kawarimi, and a henge, as well as another jutsu of your choosing. Naruto and Sasuke were the only students left after the students went through the lines and completed the test once more. They moved to face Iruka and Mizuki, respectively, then exchanged glances and nodded. As Naruto started performing hand seals, he created a shadow clone that hanged into Iruka and Kawaramide with him. Sasuke followed suit, but he used Mizuki rather than Iruka. Futon. Furyanden. Naruto exhaled a tremendous tornado that transformed into a dragon. Sasuke exclaimed, Kaden. Karyuenden, as he extinguished a massive dragon-shaped stream of fire. Before colliding and causing a massive explosion of white-hot flames, the 2 attacks flew high into the air, circling one another along the way. As everyone in the field gazed in wonder at the fireball, they thought, damn. There's no way these 2 are genin. As both boys left with smiles on their faces, Iruka remarked, you pass. Before the students started to disperse, Iruka said, well, everyone, you are dismissed for now, be back at noon for team assignments. Back in the classroom at noon, Iruka shouted, everyone sit down and shut up, and the class immediately started paying attention. Ah, it feels good to say that to them one last time. Okay everyone, first off, I'd like to congratulate all of you who remain. It has been an honor teaching you for these years, or weeks in some cases. Now without further ado, Team 1 will be. Naruto and Sasuke both tuned out as he went on reading the list because they already knew who their team would be. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzu, Namikaze, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hinata Hyuga. Your Jonin sensei will be Itachi Uchiha. Ino mentally swore, damn it, I wanted to be on Naruto Kun's team. Hinata cheered in her head, eep, I'm on the same team as Naruto-kun. Having Itachi as their sensei jolted the kids out of their reverie, even though they knew who their other teammate would be. At the same time, Sasuke and Naruto exclaimed, what the fuck? Team 8 will be Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Sai. Your sensei will be Kakashi Hitaki. Team 9 is still active, so Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Shoji Akamichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Your Jonin sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. As soon as Iruka was done, Itachi stepped forward and Asuma, Kakashi, and Itachi all entered the room through Shunshin. Itachi said, Team 7. Hokage's office, now, and then vanished in a swarm of ravens, followed by Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata. The office of Hiruzen Itachi defended Team 7 as they all materialized in front of Hiruzen's desk at about the same moment. Team 7 at your service, Hokage. Sama. As the 4 members of Team 7 stood up, Hiruzen responded, thank you Itachi-kun, at ease. Now then, as I've already said to Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun, this is a special team. Hinata, you are above the level of the other genin, which is why you were placed here. We were privy to some information concerning the Chunin exams, and we needed some people on the inside. Hiruzen continued, gaining the approval of Hinata. For the next 6 months or so, your team will go on a few C to B rank missions, but I want most of the time spent training. All 4 of you need to be the best you can be by then. The responses from all 4 members of Team 7 were, understood. All right, you are fired, Sasuke and Hinata. The 2 just nodded and left the room. All right, you 2 ought to be more aware of the circumstances. As you were already aware, Jiraiya's spy network has learned some information about Orochimaru. They claim that he has been seeing the case cage frequently, but they stopped around 2 weeks ago, and Suna now claims that the case cage is acting strangely. We think Oro is influencing the case cage in some way so he can get their support for his assault. While Itachi and Naruto both displayed a slight look of disgust, Hiruzen took a moment to process the information. Sources also say that he is interested in gaining the Sharingan through some new technique he developed in order to switch bodies. However, since you will have 2 sets of them, your team might be singled out. Keep in mind that you might have to battle Asanin because Itachi is far beyond Orochimaru and will target the 2 of you if he tries to get them. In addition, Suna will be taking the tests with an unstable Jinchuriki, who could be used as a weapon. You may be dismissed because I think that's all I have for the time being. Naruto and Itachi both nodded before vanishing in a flame vortex and a flock of ravens, respectively. Afterward, the Namikaze training area, Gosh! Naruto screamed as he botched another attempt at the jutsu he was learning. Naruto sat down against a nearby tree and thought, I don't see what I'm doing wrong, and the only person who could help me is dead. How am I supposed to do this? How can I go about doing this? As he considered what he had read in the scroll, he asked himself aloud. Jutsu no Hiraishin technique of space, time position, SS. The Namikaze clan's secret method when a special seal, like a thrown kunai, is used to open a rift in space. The user teleports to the seal and simultaneously rolls back time, giving the impression that they are in multiple locations at once. Having a clear head is essential for using this technique. Simply relax and go with the flow. You will know the seal's presence and general location in your mind once it is activated. Once you hone in on one, all you have to do is ask, and you will receive. What on earth does all of this mean? As he hurled one of the three-pronged kunai across his yard, Naruto let out a loud cry. I don't know anything, he yelled once more. Shit. After that, he simply leaned back against the tree and gazed at the sky for a while before starting to feel a tugging in his head toward his most recent kunai. One needs to be mentally clear. With a mental face, palm, Naruto thought, just relax and go with the flow. Naruto stood up, relaxed, and threw a kunai across the field, feeling a slight tug as it flew, saying, So I've been trying too hard, figures. When Naruto flared his chakra and willed himself to the kunai, he thought for a moment, you must simply ask, and you will receive, and was met with two simultaneous flashes of yellow light as he landed on the opposite side of the field, holding the kunai while he panted on the ground. Naruto got back up and said, Wow, I put way too much into it. As he released another kunai, he thought, just relax and roll with the flow. He experienced the tugging sensation once more, but this time he simply mentally linked himself to the beacon and vanished in an instant. Yes. With nearly no drain at the moment, he yelled as he reappeared across the field. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He uttered those words as 10 clones, each holding a three-pronged kunai, materialized in a circle around him, spaced roughly 50 feet apart. The 10 clones were suddenly dispelled in what appeared to be a single flash of light as they all threw their kunai at one another. He then created another 100 without a kunai and had them dispersed throughout the field. Naruto examined them all before jumping high into the air and performing a few hand seals. Taju kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he said as he produced a single three-pronged kunai and threw it before it multiplied into more than 100. He then vanished quickly, destroying the clones in every manner he knew how, and it only took 1 minute for them to vanish. District of Uchiha with an expressionless face, Itachi gazed at Sasuke and said, Try again. Grr. Kaden. Hano no Jutsu Uzumaku, swirling flames. Sasuke shouted as he took a deep breath and exhaled, extinguishing 3 streams of fire that momentarily twisted together before straightening out again. To use this technique, you must have greater control over your element. Watch. Itachi said as he took a leaf from a tree and incinerated it in his palm. Now you try. After that, Sasuke approached the tree, picked up a leaf, held it in his palm, and for several minutes, nothing happened as he directed fire chakra into the leaf. Heather. As he watched Sasuke struggle, Itachi remarked, more focused. Sasuke grinned at his progress and turned to Itachi to ask what would happen next, but he fell on his ass and crawled away in terror. Damn it. Sasuke said as he tried harder to burn the leaf, focusing on the fire for several hours until the leaf started to smoke a little. What on earth are you? Sasuke shouted. I'm Itachi, foolish little brother. Bullshit. My Itachi.ni is not grinning. Am I truly that awful? Itachi pondered as he began to perspire. It really is me, brother. I am pleased with your progress today. After giving him a doubtful glance for a while, Itachi approached and gave him a quick jab in the forehead to seal the deal. Returning to his stoic demeanor, Itachi remarked, We're done for today, good job. After a month after training hard every day for the past month, the team decided to take the day off today by obtaining a mission. Good morning, Team 7. What can I do to help you? Itachi remarked, We are here requesting a mission, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen started reviewing the mission list and said, Very well, let's see what we have here. I have a Hokage-sama. Team 8 just informed us that they need backup right away. Zabuza Momoichi attacked them, and Kakashi was hurt. A Chunin messenger rushed through the door and yelled. Well, it appears that I have located your mission. Do you agree? The group shunned away, and Itachi said, Of course, we will depart within the hour. Knowing that time was of the essence with a man as dangerous as the demon of the mist lurking around with the only Jonin out of commission, Team 7 wasted no time in getting to Wave Country after receiving the assignment. Just a second. From behind the door of Tazuna's home, a female voice spoke. A stunning woman with purple hair, who appeared to be in her 30s, opened the door and greeted them a few seconds later. Hi there, you must be Konoha's reinforcements. Please come in, I'm Tsunami. MILF warning. Do boon NNNKKKK. There's no drill here. This is not a drill. I say again. The alarms in Naruto's mind screamed. Murmuring to himself, what the fuck, I've got to stop hanging around with Jiraiya. Naruto wiped the tiny drop of blood from his nose. What? Sasuke questioned him. As the group entered, Naruto quickly responded, nothing. Sasuke gave Naruto a perplexed look. After entering, Itachi and Naruto proceeded to Kakashi's room upstairs to obtain a report from him. Well, we ran into the Demon Brothers on the way here. They both lived despite our efforts to repel them. After a while, I battled Zabuza and won. But just as I was ready to kill him, a hunter nin fell from the trees and finished him by putting some senbon in his throat. At the time, I didn't give it much thought, but then the hunter took his body and fled rather than immediately destroying it as is customary. In any case, after using my Sharingan, I quickly passed out from my injuries and chakra exhaustion. That's the truncated version, Kakashi said softly from his bed as Itachi and Naruto just listened and nodded now and then. Are you implying that you believe Zabuza is still alive? Naruto asked him. Kakashi just nodded as best he could, but Itachi added, and that he will attack as soon as he recovers. Right, I'd say he will be down for about a week, which is coincidentally the day Tazuna intends to finish the bridge. Naruto and Itachi merely nodded before leaving the room to go to the dinner table and talk about the mission with the rest of Team 8 and their team. Alright, Kakashi. Senpai informed us that Zabuza won't be well enough to fight for another week or so. As he examined Kakashi's genin, Itachi remarked, for the time being, I need to know your abilities. That means that the next 5 days will be the most taxing training you three have ever had. You go first, classes. My name is Aburame Shino. Shino shocked Hinata, Kiba, and Sai by saying, as you probably know from the name, I use my family's clan techniques with the Kakaichu, and I am moderately good at taijutsu, though Sai chose not to show it. Naruto remarked, emotional black hole. Are you certain your dick is large enough to give me such orders? I think it's rather small, Sai remarked, his face showing no signs of emotion. The sudden spike in blood pressure nearly caused Naruto's head to explode, but he controlled himself, understanding that he was now supposed to be a genin and not an Anbu captain, so he chose to enjoy himself instead of blowing up. Ask your mother. I believe my dick is large enough, though everyone was too preoccupied with the argument to notice. Hinata suddenly fainted at the thought of Naruto's genitalia. But that's not the point, just explain yourself, Naruto said with a cocky, pun intended, grin. I have no mom, dickless. Sai said, remaining emotionless, what the fuck could get out of me if a sexual reference about his mother couldn't get a rise out of me? Itachi let out a little murderous intent into the room and said, ahem. The simple response from Sai was, I am Sai, I use ink-based techniques. With his usual stoicism, Itachi said, okay, dog boy, you next. Grr, I use my clan-based techniques alongside Akamaru, we are close-range specialists. Kiba let out a growl. You are all too specialized, then. We'll start working on expanding your arsenal tomorrow. You'll need all the energy you can get, so I go to bed now, Itachi said as the three genin went pale and swiftly vanished into their rooms. Sasuke stated, they won't be much help. Naruto and Itachi nodded in agreement. Hopefully, they will be prepared to be a backup at the very least, Itachi joined in. Naruto turned to face Hinata, who was unconscious and lying on the floor with a smile that could have ripped her face in two. Hinata. Chan, you're being AWE fully quiet, even for you. Hinata. Chan, exclaimed Naruto, who went to see how she was doing. At that, Itachi and Sasuke both started to perspire. Itachi nodded as Sasuke muttered, he's so oblivious. The following morning, in a field close to Tazuna's residence, the genin of Team 8 gave Itachi a, are you fucking crazy? Look when he said, dog, black hole, bugs. Spar with Naruto so we can see your abilities. 3-1? Look. Itachi, who never missed a moment, nodded to them and said, don't look at me like I'm stupid, concentrate on the fight, lest you all end up injured. As Naruto's eyes started to twitch and his hand automatically brought a cigarette to his lips, Sai remarked, Uchiha. Sensei, Naruto's dick is surely too small to fight all three of us at once. Team 7 all thought at once, what the fuck is with this guy and dicks? Before he could stop himself, Sasuke spat out, are you gay? No, I simply don't think he has the testicular fortitude to defeat us all at once. Right, Naruto and the other three then dropped into a fighting stance. Begin, Itachi said. As Shino's bugs filtered out into the air and Sai pulled out a scroll and started drawing frantically, Kiba and Akamaru immediately ran towards Naruto. Before striking Kiba in the solar plexus, Naruto remained motionless until Kiba arrived and threw a right hook at his face, which he easily dodged. Kiba flipped and landed on his feet after flying backwards a few feet. Then he produced a pill bottle and handed one to Akamaru. As the dog became a clone of Kiba, Ninpo exclaimed, "Are you ready, boy?" Ninpo. Jujin Bunshin. Gatsuga. Man. Beast clone. Fang over fang. The two then leapt into the air and started spinning like cyclones as they rushed in Naruto's direction. Naruto easily sidestepped the attack before spinning around and slicing through a black and white lion with his Kodachi. Another lion slammed into the ground where he was just before it charged at him, and he jumped back quickly. As he formed a Rasengan in each hand and drove one through the lion's face, Naruto yelled, "Rasengan!" He then spun around and pushed the other into a mass of Shino's beetles, blowing them all away. Then Naruto felt Kiba approaching him with another Gatsuga from behind. He turned swiftly while performing hand Celis and uttered the words, "Futon. Tatsumaki no Mi. Eye of the Tornado," before propelling both of his hands forward and engulfing Kiba and Akamaru in a massive windstorm that stopped them in their tracks and countered their rotation. Naruto stepped in between them and kicked them both away before they could even touch the ground. As he landed directly next to Naruto and slashed at him with his Tanto, Sai remarked, "Very impressive for one with such a small dick." As he used his own blade to parry the blow, Naruto grinned and remarked, "Horses are jealous of me, dick. Boy." As the two continued their kenjutsu practice, Sai remarked, "Maybe the female of the species, for taking all of their men." Naruto was unaware of the plume of insects that was approaching him. Before leaping backwards and starting to perform hand seals, Sai unleashed one final slash, which was parried. As Naruto was attempting to decipher the jutsu, the cloud of bugs completely enveloped his body. The bugs quickly departed and went back to their hive. As Sai approached Naruto, who was now unconscious, he started, "I told you that you were too small to," but then he felt a chakra beneath him. He attempted to leap back as fast as he could, but Naruto came up out of the ground, punched him in the chin, and sent him flying before creating two shadow clones. Before dispelling, one of the clones leapt up and gave Sai a back kick that sent him skyward. The real Naruto and the second appeared above him, launching him back towards the ground with an axe kick to his stomach. Naruto slammed a weak Rasengan into Sai just as he was about to hit the ground, sending his now conscious form hurtling in the direction of Shino, who couldn't react in time. "Okay then, good. Now I know what to work on. The dog boy is too rash, Dick boy is fairly well rounded, and Bugs needs more speed and taijutsu." Itachi was speaking to the group. "Sasuke, I want you to work on the dog. Spar with him, and if he rushes in without thinking, punish him for it. Just leave him alive. Naruto, you work with Dick boy on his kenjutsu, and myself and Hinata will work with Shino." Before seizing their respective charges and dragging them into the woods, the two boys said, "Hi," together. A few minutes later, with Kiba and Sasuke. "What the fuck happened?" Kiba exclaimed as he regained brain function. "You got your ass kicked. Now listen up, Itachi. Sensei has put me in charge of your training for now. You act without thinking, and that is going to get you and your teammates killed one day. Now we are going to spar, think before you act," Sasuke said with a serious voice. Sasuke followed suit as Kiba simply grunted and dropped to his fighting stance. As Kiba bounded toward him, Sasuke said, "Whenever you're ready." Sasuke merely sighed and performed a series of hand seals before Kiba was knocked to his ass in a seizure. Like motion by a wave of lightning that left his hands and traveled over him. Raiden. Jibashi. Murder by electromagnetic. What the fuck? Kiba yelled angrily as he collapsed on the ground, currently unable to control his body. Kiba became even more irate when Sasuke calmly responded, "When you act before thinking, I will hurt you. Think of a plan before you attack, or you will die, soon." Kiba got to his feet shakily, screamed, "Suga!" Passing Fang, and leapt at Sasuke in his well-known cyclone attack. As he struck Kiba with the lightning jutsu once more, rendering him unconscious, Sasuke remarked, "Sai. This is going to be a long day. Raiden. Jibashi." With Sai and Naruto. When Sai awoke in silence, Naruto was standing a short distance away. "Itachi has told me to work with you in your kenjutsu. Before we get started though, know this. Every time you say the word, dick, I will cause you physical harm. The blunt side of Naruto's kodachi struck the side of Sai's head, sending him to the ground in excruciating pain. I see, Itachi believes you have a big enough dick to. Sai was interrupted. Naruto sheathed his sword and remarked, I meant what I said. And fucking smile sometime, why don't you? Sai silently got back up and looked at Naruto while gesturing for him to go on. Naruto eyed the tanto that lay horizontally across Sai's back and asked, how would you rate your skills with that blade? I am proficient in kenjutsu. Danzo Sama trained me personally before his death. Naruto took a few steps back and thought, so he is one of Danzo's lackeys, that explains the emotionlessness. As he pulled out his kodachi, he said, show me. Before Naruto signaled for him to start, Sai unshed his tanto and dropped to a ready stance. He then leapt at Naruto and tried a sideways slash. After easily parrying the blow, Naruto kicked Sai in the ribs, sending him flying backwards several feet. Naruto struck him with a downward slash before he could get his bearings. He barely managed to parry the blow, but it knocked him off balance, causing Naruto's sword's blunt side to strike his right clavicle, sending him to the ground. Naruto retreated and bided his time until Sai rose. He grunted in pain as he moved his right arm, but it didn't take long. You should know, kenjutsu is more of a dance than a fighting style. Your movements need to be fluid. Every move you make should flow into the next seamlessly. You must be light on your feet, keeping your balance at your core. The smallest fumble could cost you your life, as you just saw. Now try again, but try to remain on balance even after you take a hit. After giving a nod, Sai charged at Naruto again and delivered blow after blow, but they were all deflected. While continuing to dodge and parry every one of Sai's blows, Naruto remarked, you call this proficient? Your attacks are too straightforward and too stiff. Throw some feints in there and make your transmissions smoother. Naruto halted the spar after a few minutes had passed. Sai, have you ever trained with anything besides a tanto? No, this was what we were all given, no options. I see. Naruto then produced a scroll, opened it, and gave Sai a spare kodachi. Try with this. I personally think that a tanto is too small to be called a proper sword. I believe the size is why it is so hard for you to flow smoothly. After a brief glance at the blade, Sai practiced a few swings to get a sense of how it felt. Thank you, Dickless, I like. Naruto's kodachi left him on the ground again, clutching his side in agony. Remember what I said about dicks? Now get up and let's see how you do with that. After catching his breath, Sai slowly got back up and charged at Naruto once more. He took a moment to adjust to the kodachi's increased length and weight, but he quickly improved and was able to hit Naruto once. With Shino, Hinata, and Itachi, Hinata swiftly and gracefully leapt at Shino, hurling multiple Jiyuken strikes at him. Itachi said, you need to work on your taijutsu and speed more. You rely on your clan techniques too much. If anyone was to get close, you would be in trouble. For this session, you will spar with Hinata, learning to dodge her strikes. Remember, if you get hit, it will close off your tenketsu and hurt like hell. Go. Although he was able to avoid some of the blows, a number of them struck him, cutting off all of the tenketsu in his left arm and causing excruciating pain, as Itachi described. Before Naruto materialized before him in a whirlpool of flames, Itachi uttered the words, Naruto. Yes. Please put a weight seal on Shino. Hi, was Naruto's response. Raise your shirt, Shino. After Shino grudgingly obeyed, Naruto performed a series of hand seals and touched his palm to Shino's chest, causing a variety of seals to emerge from the contact. As Shino fell to the ground, Naruto uttered the words, Fuin, seal. I'm grateful, Naruto.kun. Shino, stand up now and run around this field until you either faint or adjust to the weight. Hinata will motivate you to keep going if you start to lag behind. Proceed. Shino stumbled to his feet and started running as quickly as he could across the field, which was normally only a light jog. Itachi, screw you. Why? Because he is an asshole who drives slaves. But rationally, I will recover if I pay attention to him. As he jogged his laps with Hinata right behind him, Shino thought, damn logic. The training week proceeded without incident, except for the fact that the genin of Team 8 prayed for the death of Team 7 every night. The day before the bridge was to be completed, Kakashi was finally well enough to fight. They had devised their attack strategy and now had nothing to do but wait. Next morning at the bridge, not surprisingly, a dense fog enveloped the area as the group neared the bridge on their last day of construction, and as they got closer, they noticed a number of men lying on the ground, unconscious, all around the bridge. All right, Kakashi, it looks like you called for assistance. Somewhere in the haze, a voice called out. That I did, Zabuza. We intend to stop you here. A few more brats and another Jonin won't change anything. If you don't turn over the bridge builder, you will all perish here. In a tone that was very different from what most of the people there had heard him use previously, Kakashi responded, "Not gonna happen, Zabuza." "Very well then, of course you know what comes next." This time, Kakashi didn't respond verbally. Instead, he merely looked at Naruto, who nodded in return and displayed a number of hand seals. Daitapa, Futon. Get moving. As soon as the targets were in view, Teams 7 and 8 swiftly vanished to engage. Naruto shouted as he released a powerful gust of wind that dispelled the fog and revealed Zabuza, the Hunter Nin, and the Demon Brothers. Zabuza's huge sword crashed down on the spot where Itachi was standing, and Itachi jumped back as he appeared in front of him and kicked at his ribcage, only to have it blocked. "Zabuza, why don't you just give up? This fight is pointless," Itachi said. "Unfortunately, I am unable to do that. I need the money to start a rebellion and murder the Mizukage, and I have to kill the bridge builder to get paid." I sigh. Although I would prefer not to have to do it this way, I will stop at nothing to fulfill my mission of protecting him. After he started going through hand seals, Itachi yelled, "Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu." He then spat out a number of tiny fireballs at Zabuza, who either avoided or blocked them all. As Zabuza started performing hand seals, Itachi started to mimic them in time with his Sharingan, saying, "You'll have to do better than that against me, Uchiha." Suiryuenden, Sweden. As two enormous dragons emerged from the water and started to fight, both of them spoke simultaneously. "You and your Sharingan, Uchiha, are a damn pain," Zabuza yelled as he swung his sword in Itachi's direction. Itachi swiftly drew a kunai, blocked the blow, and then leapt back again while performing additional hand seals. Itachi fired a big ball of water at Zabuza and said, "Sweden, Teppodama, gunshot." In an attempt to sidestep the attack, Zabuza leapt once more and barely avoided a lightning-covered fist that was delivered via Kakashi. Kakashi regained his strength and jumped to Itachi's side, saying, "Chidori." Zabuza started performing more hand seals, this time being imitated by Itachi and Kakashi, and remarked, "I was wondering when you would jump in copy, Nin." Sweden. Jutsu no Daibakufu. As literally half of the river below rose up and shot towards one another, all three of them called simultaneously. When Naruto reached Haku, he dropped into his ready stance, and Haku followed suit, starting to talk. "Goddammit, Haku is a girl, so I don't care what people think," she said. "I apologize for this, but if you won't hand over the bridge builder, I will be forced to kill you. It is Zabuza Sama's will." From behind her mask. "I don't want to do this any more than you, Hunter.san, but it is our mission to protect him, and we shall." "I understand." As she started to perform one-handed hand seals, Haku remarked, "I will have to kill you then." Suisho Sensatsu. As 1,000 cold water needles gathered around Naruto and then shot in his direction, she uttered the words, "1,000 flying water needles of death." As a whirlpool of flames erupted from the earth surrounding his body, evaporating the needles, Naruto uttered, "Kaden. Hai no Uzu." As the fire surrounding Naruto subsided, Haku remarked, "Well done, Konoha.nin." "It's Naruto." Naruto replied, "I think you should know the name of your opponent." "My name is Haku." "Thank you, Naruto, for the respect." Before he started performing hand seals, Naruto merely nodded before vanishing and resurfacing in front of Haku with his sword embedded in an ice wall. He jumped backwards and jerked his sword out just in time to avoid a barrage of strategically placed senbon. As he thrust a palm forward and released a massive bolt of lightning, Naruto said, "Raiden. Jabashi." Haku barely avoided the attack, but it still gave him a jolt, allowing Naruto to get in and slam his knee into her face with enough force to break her mask. In the meantime, Hinata found herself angry, but she was unsure of why, and Naruto had to stop himself for a brief moment as the fragments of the mask fell away in order to silence the warning bells that were ringing in his head once more. "You are among the most stunning women I have ever laid eyes on, you know." As she rose back up off the ground, Naruto remarked to her, "It's unfortunate that we are on different sides." Naruto.san, thank you for the compliment. I guess I'm happy to have you as my opponent. It's difficult to find honor in a shinobi. Naruto.san, tell me why you fight. After giving it some thought, Naruto said, "I fight for my village, to protect the people that I love. In order to protect them all, I hope to one day become the Hokage." Haku threw several senbon at Naruto before vanishing from view, saying, "Then you will become truly strong one day. Fighting for your precious people will take you far." Without saying a word, the Demon Brothers charged at the two with their chains as Sasuke leapt down in front of Gozu and Maizu with Hinata. Leaping over and kicking Gozu in the face, Sasuke swiftly threw a kunai into one of the chain's rungs, stopping their advance. After flying back a few feet, Gozu managed to right himself and get back up in time to avoid Sasuke's axe kick before launching his own kick in Sasuke's direction. Gozu leapt back and started performing hand seals after Sasuke grabbed his leg and spun around, slamming him into the ground. Raiden! Jabashi! He yelled as he struck Gozu with a lightning bolt. Gozu was knocked out when the lightning struck him, despite his best efforts to get up and leave quickly enough. Hinata attempted to hit Maizu in the chest with a Jiyuken strike after Sasuke initially engaged Gozu, but he sidestepped it and kicked Hinata in the ribs, knocking her back a few feet. Hinata had to avoid a cut from Maizu's clawed gauntlet as she was getting better, and then she touched his stomach with her palm, pushing him back slightly. Jiyuken Senejashu. As two snakes emerged from her sleeves and started attacking Maizu, releasing a burst of chakra with each bite, resembling Jiyuken strikes, Hinata uttered those words. Maizu barely managed to avoid the snakes before they overtook him and he fainted from depletion of chakra. After the three water walls clashed, Itachi's and Kakashi's overpowered Zabuza's. Zabuza attempted to avoid it, but he was caught in the fast-moving stream of water before colliding with the bridge. Those Sharingan, damn them. I believe my arm is broken, I'll fucking kill. Alright, Zabuza, couldn't finish the job? In any case, I was never going to pay you. As he and an army of thugs approached the end of the bridge, a short man in a black suit interrupted, saying, "Kill them all." What on earth did you just say? With his right arm now malformed, roared Zabuza stood back up and said, "Shit, I can't even use my sword anymore." Kakashi threw a kunai blunt side first at Zabuza and said, "Zabuza." After catching the kunai with his good arm, Zabuza replied, "Thanks." He then charged at the thugs. Haku threw an axe kick into the ground where he was standing, and Naruto jumped out of the way after blocking the senbon with his sword. Hyosho Makio. As the water from her 1,000 needles collected and created a dome of ice mirrors surrounding Naruto, Haku remarked, "No one has ever seen this technique and lived to tell the tale." A picture of Haku suddenly materialized in all the mirrors at once, and she pulled out a handful of senbon, but before she could throw them, she paused and exclaimed, "What? Zabuza? Sama?" Before abandoning the tactic and avoiding to Kakashi and Itachi's side to observe the situation. Soon after, Naruto did the same, asking, "What's going on here?" Kakashi stated coolly, "Gato betrayed Zabuza, so he is in the process of dying." Naruto remarked, observing Zabuza mercilessly dispatch the bandits. "Has your team killed Kakashi, Senpai yet?" "No, our first C rank was this one." "Why? Now would be a good time to get it over with." "Well said. Team 8, yes, sir." As they ran up, Shino, Sai, and Kiba all said the same thing. "Go help Zabuza kill the bandits, but stay out of his way." "Hello." Before jumping into the battle, they all uttered those words. When Hinata and Sasuke approached with the demon brothers bound, Naruto said, "Hinata-chan, why don't you go help them out?" After giving a simple nod, Hinata fled into the sea of thugs, blood, insects, and ink. Everyone else nodded when Itachi remarked, "Well then, I suppose this means our mission is over, since Zabuza has no reason to fight with us anymore." "Yes, Konoha-san, I believe you are correct. We are no longer committed to Gato. However, I am unsure of our current destination." You were never registered as a shinobi in Kiri, so you could come to Konoha and join our ranks." "How is Zabuza Sama doing?" Naruto smiled slightly and said, "Well, unfortunately, he died during the Battle of the Bridge, but I bet there is a spot in Anbu for Devil." "I would like that," said Haku with a slight smile in return, "but it will be up to Zabuza Sama." Soon after, Zabuza returned with Hinata and Team 8, holding Gato's head in his good arm. Zabuza threw the head over the bridge's edge and remarked, "Little bastard, I hope he is in the deepest level of hell." "Now, Zabuza, what are you going to do?" After he, Naruto, Itachi, and Zabuza left the group, Kakashi inquired. "Well, we no longer have a qualm with Konoha. I hope you understand that it was simply a job." "Of course. As for what I'll do, I suppose we will continue traveling to look for more work. Would you like to accompany us back to Konoha? I'm a missing nin, I'd never be allowed there. Actually, we've already talked about it. I think there is a vacancy in our Anbu for someone with your skill set, but you would have to die here," Naruto said, choosing to enter. "Well, are you certain it would be alright?" "Absolutely, if you were in Anbu, no one would know your identity besides us and Haku," Itachi replied. "At that point, it seems like a plan to me, but what about the other brats?" As Kakashi nodded and left, Itachi remarked, Kakashi, take your team and head back, and we will take care of things here. When Kakashi's team was nearly hidden, Itachi said, Zabuza, make a clone and replace it. Following Zabuza's instructions, Naruto killed the clone by driving a futon Rasengan through his chest. As Itachi and Zabuza both started to perspire, Naruto exclaimed, done. Now, let's get out of here. The following day, Team 7, Haku, and Demon left Wave Country after Tazuna finished the bridge without any further issues. They arrived home without incident, and now they are in Hiruzen's office. Itachi said, Team 7 reporting in, Hokage, Sama, as they entered. Good job. Who are your visitors? Hiruzen answered. This is Haku Yuki, Itachi said, pointing to Haku. She uses Hyuden Kekai Genkai, and this is unofficially Zabuza Momoichi, he said, pointing to Zabuza. Since he is a missing nin and cannot be a normal jonin, we offered him a job in our Anbu. I understand. I don't mind at all. It will be good to have you here, Haku.san and Zabuza.san. Thank you for being our host, Hokage. Sama. Serving under you will be an honor. We can put that off for later, but I do have some information you might find interesting about Kiri, or more especially the Mizukage. After searching through a drawer in his desk and retrieving a set of keys, Hiruzen said, yes, we can discuss that matter after you've all had time to rest. Here is an apartment for yourself and Haku.san, if you two don't mind living together. Zabuza took the keys from Hiruzen and said, that will be fine, thank you Hokage, Sama. All of you have been dismissed. Please arrive here by 9 o'clock tomorrow, Zabuza.san. Hiruzen responded, Katestu, as the Chunin suddenly materialized. Please show these two to the Shinobi apartment complex Katetsu. As the group left the office, Katetsu said, hi. Anko yelled, all right maggots listen up, I don't like repeating myself, while she was in front of a sizable group of Chunin candidates. As you all know, I am the proctor of this exam. Each team will receive either a heaven or an earth scroll. You have 5 days to obtain both scrolls and make your way to the tower in the center of this forest. Any questions? Why is this called the Forest of Death? Asked a random genin as he raised his hand. In response, Anko said, kid, have you ever had a nightmare? Take the worst nightmare you ever had, multiply it by 10, and you've got this forest. Her eyes glowed evilly. Genin and his group, as well as a few others, vanished from sight. Okay, if there are no more pussies out there, sign these forms, and then one person from each team will come to this desk and trade 3 releases for 1 scroll. As the forms were being distributed, Shikamaru inquired, what are the forms for? In a sing-song voice, Anko answered, to release myself and Konoha from liability if any of you are, let's say maimed or killed or anything of that sort. Shikamaru started to say, troublesome. Aiku. Ow. But was interrupted when Ino struck his head with his fist. Anko snapped, okay, everyone find a gate. The exam begins in 5 minutes, as the genin started to disperse. As Team 7 assembled at their gate, Sasuke inquired, what's the plan? As a bell rang across the forest and the gates opened, Naruto responded, receiving 2 nods in agreement. We have 5 days to get to the tower, so we spend 3 days of snake hunting, and then go straight to the tower. Of course I don't have to tell you that if you see him, don't engage. We're good but the 3 of us together couldn't beat him. Without any delay, Team 7 leapt through the gate and into the woods. As 20 clones materialized around him and fled through the forest, all of them with their Sharingan active, Naruto uttered the words, Hinata, check the area with your Byakugan. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Before cutting it off, Hinata turned on her Byakugan and looked around them for a while. I don't see anything within a mile besides some genin teams. Okay. Check every 10 minutes or so for any sign of him or the auto team, Naruto said, nodding. Hi. Naruto decided to start searching for a place to camp after searching for several hours. Hinata, can you find us a cave nearby to use as a camp? Hi. Byakugan. Hinata answered, then took a moment to look around before rerouting their course to a cave she discovered a few miles away. A team of genin from Kiri descended into the clearing a few minutes into their journey towards the cave, and Hinata waved the group to the ground. One of the Kiri genin said, well, looks like we found our scroll early on. With a twisted smile, another genin said, yeah, if you just hand over your scroll we will let you live. In his Anbu captain voice, Naruto uttered, how about this? Turn around and leave now, and we'll forget about this incident. Stay, and they won't be able to identify your bodies. As they all dropped into their fighting stances, the first Kiri genin said, looks like we'll have to do this the hard way. The Kiri team was enraged that Team 7 didn't bother to form a stance. The first one said, "Are you not even going to fight back? Do you dare disrespect us?" as he started to perform hand seals. "Sweden. Tepodama," he exclaimed, launching 3 water bullets the size of softballs at Team 7. After exchanging quick looks, Naruto and Sasuke started performing hand seals. Both shouted simultaneously, "Raiden! Jabashi!" as they unleashed 2 enormous lightning bolts that joined to form a single, enormous bolt. Before striking the Kiri Genin and exploding in a burst of bluish white light, the massive lightning bolt ripped through the water bullets as if they were nothing. All that was left of him was a smear on the floor when the light went out. With the other 2 Kiri Genin frowning at him, Naruto said calmly, "Want to reconsider our offer?" The group's only Kunoichi yelled, "You killed Oyu. Like hell, we'll let you go now," as they both sprang at Team 7. Taking a deep breath, Sasuke said, "Kaden. Hosenka." Naruto followed suit, saying, "Futon. Rasenbofu. Spiraling windstorm." Together, the 2 boys exclaimed, "Mokuton. Kajirashi no Jutsu," as Sasuke spit out a barrage of fireballs that were absorbed by Naruto's twister, causing the tiny fireballs to enlarge and intensify their heat as they swung out in a wide path in front of Team 7. The firestorm quickly destroyed the water wall the female Kiri Genin had attempted to build to protect herself, killing her and her partner in the process. As Sasuke approached and extracted a scroll from the ashes of the Kunoichi, he remarked, "Foolish little bastards, we warned them." Sasuke threw the scroll to Naruto, who tucked it into his pocket, saying, "Fuck, this is the same one we already have." The following day before the sun rose, Team 7 got up and started looking for Orochimaru again in the hopes that he was sleeping. But after searching for hours without finding anything, it wasn't meant to be. A huge snake slammed through a tree and into the group, scattering them all just as they were ready to head back to camp for a rest. Naruto shouted, "Hinata, go," as he touched down on a nearby tree. Despite her strength, Hinata would only be a liability in a fight of this magnitude, which is why Naruto initially wished to avoid the fight. Following Naruto's instructions, Hinata bounded out of the scene and made her way to the central tower. A Kusa Genin standing atop the snake said, "Kukuku SSS Sasuke.kun, I finally found you." As he looked down at the man, Naruto screamed, "Why are you here, Orochimaru?" Oro said, "SS simple really, I came to give Sasuke.kun a gift. Kukuku." He leapt from the snake's head so quickly that the 2 could hardly keep up with him while wearing their Sharingan. At the last second, Sasuke threw up a block, but it didn't really help because Oro's kick's force sent him flying back through a tree. Then, with a sick smile, Oro turned to face Naruto, who reached up and literally tore his face off. Naruto watched the man take off his face and thought, "What the fuck is he?" Oro jumped back onto the snake before it lunged at Naruto, saying, "Kukuku Naruto.kun, I didn't realize you had the S's Sharingan too, I'll have to give you my gift as well." Naruto exclaimed, "Shit, Kagebunshin no Jutsu," as 3 clones materialized and slowed the snake down sufficiently for him to avoid it while performing hand seals. Naruto shouted, "Kaden, Aokaryuenden," as he slammed a huge blue fire dragon into Orochimaru. The technique flew past Oro and the snake, well into the sky, and they had no trouble avoiding it. "Well Naruto.kun. That is an impressive jutsu you have there, if only you could aim it a bit better." Naruto grinned and said, "Check again hubby. Pedo." Oro looked up and saw a number of dark storm clouds forming. "Oh, and what is the purpose of that?" Before the entire world turned white around them, Sasuke's voice echoed, "Kirin." Before being muffled by the sound of thunder as a lightning bolt struck Orochimaru from the clouds above. Tower of Hokage. As they gazed out of Hiruzen's window at the huge mass of blue fire that erupted from the Forest of Death, Itachi said to Hiruzen, "Hokage. Sama." There was the signal. Hiruzen yelled, "Let's move, quick, Neko, Akuma," as 2 Anbu emerged from the darkness and the group began to head for the forest. They saw the storm clouds forming over the forest as they were jumping along the rooftops at a dizzying rate, but they simply ascribed them to the extreme heat from Naruto's signal. That's what they believed until a strange looking lightning bolt burst from the cloud and exploded in a white flash on the ground. Hiruzen exclaimed, "Shit, we need to hurry," as the group strove to reach a new speed. When the white light subsided, the clearing was littered with blown snake fragments, but Oro was nowhere to be seen. With his Sharingan, Naruto scanned the area and said, "Sasuke, stay on guard, he's still here." As he conducted his own scan, Sasuke responded, "Shit, that was the best attack we have. I hope the backup gets here quick." The two were on guard when a rather large white snake suddenly emerged from the ground where Oro was when the attack occurred. Then, with its mouth agape, the snake regurgitated Oro onto the ground. Oro got up and his partially destroyed skin, saying, "Kukuku, that was quite the attack you have. Anyone besides me would have been killed." Naruto said, "Bastard, you're no longer even human." Oro turned to face the Hokage Tower and remarked, "You are right, Naruto-kun. I am beyond you mere mortals now. Well, it seems someone is coming to ruin our fun. I was just getting warmed up too, damn." Then, before Sasuke could move, Oro shot his head in his direction and stretched his neck. Just as Sasuke vanished in a puff of smoke, the head encircled his torso 3 times before Oro reached his shoulder and sank his teeth in. Naruto exclaimed, "Ah!" as Oro bit him, combining their chakras to create the cursed seal on his shoulder. Liquid fire seemed to be coursing through Naruto's veins. He was certain that it would kill him at any moment. But sadly, he would not be taken by the sweet blissfulness of death. "You're not Sasuke-kun, but you'll do. I must take my leave now, your friends are," was all Naruto heard before he passed out from the agony. Before he finally woke up, Naruto had the worst nightmares of his life for what seemed like 10 years. Both the evil chakra of Kurama and the repulsive chakra of Oro were pulsing through his veins. The two appeared to be engaged in a struggle for supremacy, but he felt strong, damn it. When he eventually forced himself to stand, he saw that Sasuke was outside their shelter, engaged in a battle royale with a team of Kumo and Ado, and that he was not doing well. Then he saw Hinata leaning against a nearby tree, unconscious. No way in hell. Every genin in the clearing, including Sasuke, froze in place as he felt the power of his 2 warring chakras increase tenfold. A few of them fell to the ground and fainted while urinating. Because of the murderous intent emanating from Naruto, one of them actually pulled out a kunai and buried it in his own brain. Another 2 committed suicide upon witnessing Naruto's appearance after he got up and left the cave. His whisker marks were more distinct, and his claws and fangs were longer. He had a savage and terrifying appearance. In addition to his typical feral appearance, he had 3 tails waving behind a deep purplish-red chakra shroud that surrounded him and was largely covered in black markings that resembled flames. With a demonic voice, Naruto asked, "Which one of you bastards hurt Hina-chan?" The brown spiky-haired Auto Genin in the yellow shirt exclaimed, "I did. What are you gonna do about it?" "Zaku, you fucking fool," the bandage-clad one hissed. "It's Orochimaru. Sama's orders Dosu. We have to kill him or die trying." Dosu turned and leapt off in the direction of the tree line, saying, "I'll take my chances fighting Orochimaru." Before he had gone 10 feet, a spray of blood appeared from where his right shoulder had been. Naruto was still standing in front of the cave, but everyone could see him holding said arm with his foot on Dosu's back. Sasuke thought, "I never saw him make a shadow," as the Naruto by the cave disappeared. After image, shit, he's fast. "Ah!" Dosu screamed as he used his good arm to grab his bleeding stump, before Naruto threw his body into the ground, causing a huge explosion. The Ado Kunoichi yelled, "WW, what the fuck are you?" Before Zaku discovered both legs were gone, Naruto uttered the words, "A nightmare." Over the cries, Naruto said, "Remove this fucking trash from my sight before I kill you too. Make sure he lives," as Zaku lay on the ground wailing in agony. Kin didn't need to be reminded twice because she quickly grabbed Zaku and jumped into the trees. Then, turning to face Sasuke, Naruto said, "Didn't I say fucking leave?" "Naruto, it's me, Sasuke," he cried out as he began to retreat in terror. As he vanished from view and resurfaced in front of Sasuke brandishing a dark purple Rasengan, Naruto uttered the words, "Die." Hiruzen's voice cried out, "Osairu Fuin," as he moved between Naruto and Sasuke, blowing him back several feet with his palm piercing his chest. As the chakra shroud dissipated and Naruto became normal again, Itachi, Yugao, and Zabuza fell from the trees and surrounded him. Weakly, Naruto mumbled, "What happened?" Hiruzen approached and said, "Goddamn snake. He marked you with his cursed seal and it, along with the Kyuubi, were influencing you." Now that the adrenaline was gone, Sasuke, for his part, let his bladder out and collapsed to the ground in a cold sweat. "He was only a second away from killing me, holy fuck." Naruto mumbled, "Sorry," while attempting to sit up again. After helping him, Hiruzen turned to gaze at the cursed seal. Hiruzen thought aloud before taking a scroll out of it and opening a big scroll. He then began a lengthy series of hand seals after shifting Naruto's body onto the large scroll that had multiple sealing marks written on it and unrolling it. As the seals started to glow around Naruto, They moved back onto his skin and created a seal around the cursed seal, causing Naruto to scream in agony once more. Hiruzen said, Naruto-kun, be still, and this will hurt like a bitch. Fuja Hoin. Naruto stopped screaming after a few seconds, but his breathing became labored as the seal retreated into his skin. As he placed his palm against Naruto's chest and lifted the suppression seal, Hiruzen uttered the words, one more time, Osairu Kaifu. The cursed seal glowed briefly while leaking purple chakra as soon as it was released. Then, the glow stopped and a red chakra fountain burst out of the seal, knocking Naruto unconscious. The mindscape of Naruto Kurama glared down at Naruto and said, fucking pathetic. You got marked by that damn snake and I had to save you again. I appreciate the help, Fox. But don't talk down on me, you couldn't have done it if not for Gigi's help. I am the mightiest of demons. I didn't need that decrepit old bastard's help for anything, Kurama screamed. Unconsciously, Naruto's gaze returned to the Mangekyo and he glared at the fox after it had insulted Hiruzen. There you go with those goddamned eyes again. I didn't mean any insult, he is fucking ancient by your standards. Naruto made the point clear by saying, don't ever speak all of Gigi again, or your stay here will be a hell as my mindless slave. His Mangekyo started to rotate slowly. As Naruto emerged from his mindscape and found himself in the same location as before, with Hiruzen watching over him, Kurama responded, Grr. Naruto-kun. How did you destroy the seal? Kurama did it. Naruto responded, when I first woke up earlier, I could feel the cursed seal and Kurama fighting each other. When you suppressed the cursed seal he didn't have any problems negating it. As he and the three others shinned away, Hiruzen remarked, I see. Well, this turned out much better than it could have. Hurry and get to the tower so we can check over you good. Naruto said, Sasuke, you okay? Instead, yay, just a bit scared, or terrified. Sorry about that, the cursed seal was fucking with my head bad, the only person I could recognize was Hinata-chan. Don't worry about it, I know you wouldn't do anything like that. Being the prankster that he is, Naruto briefly reddened his eyes before bending closer to Sasuke. Wouldn't I? Sasuke screamed, don't fuck with me right now, as he jumped on top of Naruto and punched him in the face, determined to beat him to death. Pav of Hinata, she was still a little confused, having just woken up. A few feet away, she could see Naruto and Sasuke. Before she saw Naruto lean in close to Sasuke, she heard, don't, you, do, like that. Fuck, me. Now, she cried out as Sasuke jumped on top of Naruto and knocked him back. She screamed, "Ew fags," and turned away, throwing up a little. Both Naruto and Sasuke simultaneously said, huh? She shouted back, "You were about to fuck, ew." Still perplexed, Sasuke uttered, "No, I was killing Naruto because he's a dickhead." "But you said, fuck me now, and jumped on him?" He said, "Don't fuck with him right now," Naruto added, referring to Hinata-chan. Hinata's voice was uncertain as she said, "Oh, I'll be keeping an eye on you too just in case." Sasuke nodded in agreement. Sigh. "Did we get the scroll we needed from either of those teams that died?" Naruto said, "Okay, you two come hold on." He then took a three-pronged kunai from his pocket and hurled it toward the tower, high in the air. While Team 7 vanished in a burst of yellow light, Naruto remarked, "I've never tried to take more than just myself, hopefully it will work." In front of the exam tower, a bright flash of yellow light appeared. Naruto was seen panting heavily as Team 7 stood there as the light faded. "Well, it worked, but damn it took a lot out of me," Naruto replied. Sasuke nodded, and Hinata grinned and exclaimed, "Wow, that felt great." As he and the others entered the tower and unlocked their scrolls, Naruto remarked, "Okay, let's go inside, I need some rest." Itachi was standing in front of them when a puff of smoke appeared. As he and Naruto shinned away, he remarked, "Good job. Naruto, come with me. Sasuke, Hinata, your room is on the 3rd floor, go rest for now." The tower's basement. While waiting for Naruto to arrive, Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Yugao, and Zabuza were seated in a room with a medic.nin. It didn't take them long to see Naruto and Itachi enter the room. Hiruzen got up and approached Naruto, saying, "Ah, Naruto-kun, how are you?" Naruto answered, "I'm fine, Hokage. Gigi, just a bit tired." "Good. I'd like to have Jiraiya look at your seal, and have this medic give you a check up." Naruto just took off his shirt and nodded before settling into an examination chair. Jiraiya approached and examined both his seal and the location of the cursed seal. As the medic arrived and started his examination, he remarked, "Well, everything looks fine to me." Everything appears to be fine for the most part. You have a mild case of chakra exhaustion, but it is recovering at a rapid pace. You should be fine by morning. Before he vanished in a whirl of leaves, Hiruzen said to the medic Nin, "Thank you, you are dismissed." Now, Naruto, at this point in the exams, you will be given an option to quit before the preliminaries or the final round, whichever happens. You and Sasuke may now quit and resume Anbu duties without hurting Hinata's chances or your mission, seeing as everyone will be in proximity to the exam now. I want your team as the guard around the cage's box. Itachi, you will be in the box with me as my personal guard. Any questions? Hiruzen interpreted the silence as his response. As everyone shied away, he said, "Dismissed." The room of Team 7 as Hinata and Sasuke were discussing their exam strategy for the next section. Naruto burst into the room in a whirl of flames. According to Sasuke, way to scare the shit of someone. As Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, he said, sorry. Anyways, Sasuke, we're out of the exam now. The next round is going to be individual fights, so we are to withdraw and resume Anbu duty." Sasuke partially exclaimed, "Sweet." While wiping away a tear, he had to resist the impulse to leap up and give Naruto a hug. Hinata questioned, "What about me?" Hinata nodded in agreement as Naruto responded, "You will continue the exams as usual, and when the invasion starts, you will help evacuate the civilians along with the other genin." After 3 days now that the exam's 5-day limit had passed, Kabuto's Konoha team, along with teams from Gaara, Kumo, and Kiri, as well as teams 7, 8, 9, and 10, had made it. We now find a stadium inside the tower with all of the Chunin hopeful. First off, I'd like to congratulate you all on making it this far. Next, I want to remind you all of the real reason for this exam. The Chunin exams are an alternative to war. Instead of countries waging wars, we gather twice a year to compete and showcase the talents of our up-and-coming shinobi. Now then, the rules for the competition. Hiruzen stated prior to being interrupted. Cough, allow me Hokage. Sama cough, I think I should explain the rules since cough I am the proctor. I am cough Hayate Gecko. The rules, cough simply put, there are none. Cough the screen will randomly pick 2 names, and cough the 2 contestants will fight until one is dead cough, one of you surrender, or I call the match. When I say stop, cough you stop, or you will be stopped. Understand? Said a sickly looking Jonin wearing a band to hit 8. The genin all nodded, and he resumed his speech. Alright, do any of you wish to cough quit now? Your decision will not cough affect your teammates from now on. The hands of Naruto, Sasuke, Kabuto, and one of the Kiri genin were raised. As the 3 left for the observation area, Hayate remarked, "Very well, you are dismissed." After a brief flash through names, the screen paused on Rock Lee and one of the Kumo shinobi. Would Kof Rock Lee of Konoha and Kof Kazama from Kumo please come down? As Lee exclaimed, "Yosh, I am the first to get to show my flames of youth." "Yes, Lee. Show the world how brightly your youth burns," Guy yelled. Guy. Sensei. Lee. Guy. Sensei. Lee. Guy. Sensei. The 2 screamed, "Lee," as a genjutsu of waves battering a beach with the sun setting overhead materialized behind them. When Hayate saw this, almost everyone in the stadium either failed or sweat dropped. "Oh, what the fuck? I don't even want to be a Chunin if I have to deal with that. I quit," Kazama screamed. After Hayate recovered a few seconds later, he announced Lee as the winner and then called out the following pair. Tenten of Konoha Kof and Tamari of Suna, here, insert a canon battle. Winner Kof Tamari, Hinata of Konoha and Kiba Inuzuka Kof of Konoha. After the 2 competitors approached the arena and bowed to one another, Hayate yelled, "Begin." Kiba rushed in Hinata's direction right away, then leapt into the air and spun around. "Suga." "Senejashu," was yelled by Hinata as 4 snakes flew out of her sleeves and into Kiba's tornado, stopping him in his tracks. Hinata had just escaped the blow. Then she threw him against the closest wall after swinging him around. "OWW damn it," Kiba exclaimed, getting back to his feet. He remembered his training with Sasuke just as he was about to charge back in blindly. However, Hinata's voice roused him from his thoughts. "Sweeten." Teppodama, she shot Kiba with 3 water bullets. Both Kiba and Akamaru were slammed into the wall again after failing to avoid them all. "Grr. Akamaru," exclaimed Kiba, getting back up and starting to search for a soldier pill in his pouch. He never made it before Hinata had a kunai at his throat and he was ensnared in a tree. Prior to Hayate calling the match, Hinata uttered the words, "Megan. Jubaku Satsu." Next match Kof Neji Hyuga and Shoji Akamichi of Konoha. The two competitors moved toward the middle of the arena. When they got there, Neji started talking. "You may as well give up now. Fate has already decreed me the winner of this fight." With a fierce passion, Shoji declared, "I can't do that, there is too much riding on this fight." 2 minutes ago, in the past, Hayate yelled, "Next match Kof Neji Hyuga and Shoji Akamichi of Konoha." Shoji started to raise his hand and remarked, "Damn, there's no way I can beat Neji. Maybe I should just give up." The Jonin sensei were all gathered in one area, and Asuma shouted out, "No, Shoji, do your best, and all-you-can-eat barbecue is on me later," as he saw his student about to retire. Shoji exclaimed, "Free barbecue? Yay," as he dashed to the arena floor. Finish the flashback. Neji's tone was superior as he said, "As you wish, I will not go easy on you." As he grew big and round, Shoji screamed, "Neither will I, Baika no Jutsu, Nikuden Sensha, multi-size, human bullet tank." Before his head, arms, and legs vanished and he started to spin in place. As Neji watched, Shoji whirled around for a moment before launching himself from his position and rolling in the direction of the Hyuga. Neji saw right away that Shoji couldn't turn well in this form and managed to leap out of the way of the attack. Neji led Shoji around the stadium for the next few minutes before he stopped directly next to the wall. Neji abruptly jumped out of the way as Shoji rounded on him and ran directly at him, causing Shoji to crash into the wall and stop his spin. Neji rushed over and hit Shoji with multiple palm strikes, knocking him out cold. Winner, Kof Neji Hyuga. Next up is Gaara of Suna and Tetsuo of Kumo. The two descended and started their spar without saying a word. Tetsuo employed a few Raiden ninjutsu, but Gaara's sand easily blocked them all. Tetsuo paused to try to come up with a plan, but he was stopped when he felt an object grab his ankle. He noticed that it was sand emerging from the earth when he looked down. He struggled to escape, but he was stuck, and the sand quickly covered him entirely. Before he just walked away, Gaara said flatly, "Sabaku Soso." He raised his open palm and squeezed it shut, causing the sand to implode and a fountain of blood to spill onto the ground. Hayate declared Gaara the winner and called the next match after fighting the urge to throw up. Next match Kof Shikamaru Nara and Masumi of Konoha. Shikamaru said, "What a drag," as he made his way to the arena's center. Hayate started the match, but Masumi didn't bother to say anything. After sprinting towards Shikamaru, Masumi extended his torso to encircle and crush him. Shikamaru remained motionless until Masumi was just a few feet away, at which point he caught Masumi in his shadows by putting his hands in the rat symbol. Then, as Masumi did the same, Shikamaru reached to his right hip and seized a kunai, drawing it up to his throat. Did I not mention that Shikamaru was not wearing a kunai pouch? Masumi held a real kunai in his hand, while Shikamaru held his empty hand to his throat. Hayate shouted, "Winner, Shikamaru," as Shika let go of his jutsu and walked idly out of the arena. Ino's statement, "Damn, he's so lazy he just won a match without moving," made everyone in the vicinity perspire. Next up, Shino Kof Aburame and Yoroi of Konoha. Yoroi started running towards Shino with the intention of draining his chakra, and the match started without any words. Before he could get very far, a cloud of bugs flew out of Shino's coat and headed in his direction. For a brief moment, he escaped them before they caught him. When Yoroi realized he was running out of chakra, he said, "I surrender." Winner, Shino Aburame. Now then, Konkuro of Suna and Yasuo of Ku. Cough cough cough, what the cough cough fuck, cough cough. Alright then, Yasuo of Kumo. Konkuro merely smiled as Yasuo said, "You should go on and quit to save yourself some pain. Your puppets don't stand a chance against me." Konkuro said, "Not gonna happen." With a barrage of punches and kicks, Yasuo charged at Konkuro, saying, "Okay, we'll do this the hard way." Most of them were avoided by Konkuro, but at last one struck his cheek, causing Yasuo's fist to erupt in a lightning bolt. Konkuro's head exploded as the lightning struck it and traveled through it. Yasuo smiled at his straightforward triumph, but he soon realized that something was amiss. Yasuo thought, "Shit, no blood, that means that." Just before he felt a knot in his stomach, he turned to face the source of the blade and saw that Kabuto had changed into a 6-armed puppet with a spike sticking out of one of its palms and buried in his stomach. The real Konkuro was then exposed when the bandaged lump on the puppet's back came loose. Konkuro held up a small vial and said, "That blade is covered in a powerful neurotoxin. You will die in 5 minutes if you don't get the antidote. Surrender and it's yours." Yasuo said, "Shit, I give up," as Konkuro threw the antidote vial at him. Winner is Konkuro. Kof next match, Sai of Konoha and Nobu of Kiri. As the match started, Nobu exclaimed, "Kirigakure no Jutsu." A dense fog covered the entire arena. A voice from everywhere said, "Give up now, I have the advantage in this mist." Shouju Giga. Super Beast imitation drawing. Sai remarked as he took out a notepad and brush and began scribbling non-stop. A few tiny ink rats fled from his notepad into the haze after a brief moment. 2 ink lions fled from Sai's pad into the mist as he drew another picture and uttered the words, "Shouju Giga." Screams soon followed, and then Nobu dashed out of the fog and collided with Sai, who used his kodachi to pin him to the ground. The match was called by Hayate, and Sai said simply, "It's over." Ino Yamanaka of Konoha and Masaso of Kiri, Ino shouted, "You're going down," as the two headed for the ground. Masaso answered, "As if you weak bitch, or something." Masaso went through some hand seals after Hayate started the match. Sweden. Teppodama. Masaso threw 3 water balls at Ino, who easily avoided them all. After yelling, "HMPH, is that all you got?" Ino drew multiple kunai and hurled them at her. Masaso performed another set of hand seals after avoiding the kunai without incident. She shouted, "Sweden. Teppodama," and threw a single water ball at Ino, who ducked it once more. Masaso appeared in front of Ino as she was about to hit the ground again. As she struck Ino in the face and knocked her unconscious, she uttered the words, "Nighty-night bitch." Winner. Masaso. Cough now then. Congratulations on all of those who passed. In 1 month's time, we will meet at the stadium in the village for the final round. Now that you have all seen the skills of your potential opponents, you can spend this month off training and preparing yourself for the next round. Hayate said as everyone started to leave the stadium. Hello everyone, my name is Genma and I will be the proctor for this part of the exam. You all know the story there, same as canon. I'd like to start off by saying welcome to everyone. Now without further ado, would Shikamaru Nara and Tamari please come down? Genma addressed the packed room. As he made his way to the arena, Shikamaru muttered, "Troublesome, I hate fighting women." "Hey bastard. Don't think that just because I'm a woman I can't kick your ass," Tamari replied. "Sigh, what a drag. Here, insert a canon battle. Winner, Tamari of Suna. Gaara and Hinata, come on down." A big scroll that wasn't there prior to the training month was strapped to Hinata's back as she walked to the arena, but most people dismissed it as inconsequential. Both competitors nodded when Genma asked, "Fighters ready? Begin." Gaara launched a barrage of sand tentacles at the beginning of the match, but Hinata was able to avoid them all and put some distance between them. Once out of Gaara's sand, Hinata yanked the big scroll from her back and tossed it into the air, unraveling it as she went. After opening the scroll, she bit her finger, causing blood to run down its length. Hinata was briefly encircled by a cloud of smoke before a few blue balls started to fly out of it, pop against the ground, and release a little bit of water. Before strapping the scroll back to her back and performing a series of hand seals, she threw out multiple balloons until the ground around her was nice and wet. Hinata screamed, "Sweden! Hanryu!" tearing torrent, as the water she had just spilled rose behind her in a huge wave before flying in Gaara's direction. The only thing Gaara knew to do as the wave approached was to build a wall of sand to block it. When the water and sand collided, a wave of water erupted outward, soaking the entire vicinity of Gaara and destroying the wall. Gaara was a little taken aback to see something so easily outsmart his technique, but he ignored it. As long as he had his mother, nothing could harm him. Once more, he was taken aback when Hinata charged directly at him along the path of her previous wave. Gaara attempted to will the sand to attack her, but because it was wet, it was responding very slowly. She was able to easily avoid the tentacle's slow movement and enter his guard. Hinata shot Gaara into the air after approaching him and slamming her palm into his chest. Tamari exclaimed in a semi-panic, "Holy shit, no one has ever touched Gaara before." "Yay, this is bad," Konkuro added. After throwing Gaara into the air, Hinata lifted both of her palms in his direction and let out 5 snakes. Before a blue ball of chakra formed in its mouth, the 5th snake drew back to strike Gaara, while the other 4 snakes grabbed her arms and legs. Up in the stands, Kakashi muttered, "What the, is that the Senejashu Rasengan?" shouted Hinata as the snake lunged forward, slamming the chakra ball into Gaara's chest and sending him crashing to the ground. Kakashi uttered the words, "Fucking believable," while displaying a plate-sized eye. "Ahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh The screams were muffled when a dome of sand suddenly formed over Gaara. Tamari shouted, "Shit, not now, It's too early. Just before feathers appeared to start falling from the ceiling. The cage box as he jumped back onto a nearby roof, Hiruzen remarked, "Long time no see, my student." As Itachi repelled a horde of Suna and Otto Jonin, the cage swiftly pursued him. The cage ripped off his robes and revealed, big surprise, Orochimaru. Yes, SSS is Sarutobi. SSS Sensei. It's been too long, now, he exclaimed. When he was done talking, the Sound Four jumped up to the roof with them and surrounded the two with a barrier. Oro laughed and said, "As you can see, it is me against you, and only one of us will leave here alive." As he tore off his robes to reveal his black battle armor, Hiruzen exclaimed, "I'm going to finish what I should have done a long time ago. You will die here, Orochimaru." Returning to the arena officially, chaos had erupted. All of the lower-level shinobi and civilians dozed off as soon as the feathers started to fall. Naruto appeared next to her in a whirlpool of flames and yelled, "Hinata, go wake up the other genin and begin the evacuation of the civilians." After performing a series of hand seals, Naruto exclaimed, "Raiden! Jabashi!" as a massive lightning bolt blasted Gaara's sand dome to pieces. Temari and Kankuro appeared next to Gaara and grabbed him before running away, toward the edge of the village, before Naruto could finish the kill. As Sasuke dropped in next to him and the two of them fled in search of the Sand siblings, Naruto uttered the words, "Aw shit, Taka, with me. Neko, Akuma, defend the stadium." They caught up in a clearing a few miles outside the village as Temari and Kankuro attempted to flee after dropping Gaara. Sasuke nodded and took off after Naruto said, "Sasuke, don't let them escape. They need to be captured alive." With his sand lashing out wildly, Gaara screamed, "Mother wants your blood, I must kill you to prove my existence." After easily avoiding every one of the sand tentacles, Naruto appeared next to Gaara and struck him in the face. Gaara slid back a few feet, skidded to a halt, and smiled madly. Gaara exclaimed, "Ha ha ha, yes, I'm free. Finally free." In his demon voice. Tanuki Niri no Jutsu. Sand abruptly began to rise out of the earth and envelop Gaara until he assumed the shape of Shukaku, leaving only his shoulders and chest protruding from Shukaku's head. Shukaku shouted, "Yay, now die, Futon." Renkuden, as he inhaled deeply and punched himself in the stomach, launching a huge wind bullet in Naruto's direction. Naruto easily avoided the bullet, but as he hit the ground, everything turned black. Staring down at the enormous fox, Naruto awoke in his mindscape sewer, a familiar scene. Naruto screamed, "What the fuck? I'm in the middle of a fight here? Shut the fuck up and listen to me. Use my power kit. I want you show that piss ant his place. I don't need your power, I can take care of this on my own." It wasn't a goddamn option. I am the mightiest of the Biju, and I want you to show him as much, now go. When Naruto awoke, everything was exactly as it had been before he left, but he now had 9 tails flowing behind him and a red chakra shroud around him. "Oh joy! Kurama, it's been too long. I'm going to love killing you," screamed Shukaku as he started shooting Naruto with wind weapons. After avoiding a few of the wind bullets, Naruto halted and allowed one to strike him in the head. Naruto was surrounded by a huge cloud of dust as the ground exploded when the bullet struck. Naruto laughed and said, "Fucking pathetic." Then a huge stream of flames burst from the dust cloud. Have a taste of true power. The fire struck Shukaku's left arm, turning it to glass before blowing it off because he didn't move quickly enough. Shukaku roared, "OWWW, I'm gonna kill you for that," before throwing more sand in Naruto's direction. "Kid, to end this fight you need to wake the container. Or kill him. I don't give a shit one way or the other, but hurry and shut that bitch-ass raccoon up," Kurama said in Naruto's head. After dodging a number of sand tentacles, Naruto performed some hand seals. His palm slammed to the floor, and he uttered, "Kachiyose no Jutsu." When the massive cloud of smoke dissipated, Gamabunta emerged. "Damn, what have you got yourself into, Gaki? Shukaku, can you occupy him for a moment?" Bunta jumped forward in a blur, slamming into the big raccoon and knocking him off balance. "Of course," he said. "Go now, Gaki." As he hurried towards Gaara, Naruto jumped off Bunta's head and onto the Shukaku, avoiding the sand that attempted to snare him. Naruto screamed, "Rasengan," and pushed the weapon into Gaara's chest. Before Gaara was blown from Shukaku's head, his eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. Shukaku's body collapsed and he screamed, "No, goddammit, I just got out. It's too soon, I'll kill you for this, Kurama." Now that his work was done, Bunta said, "See you later, Gaki," and then he dispelled himself. Sasuke arrived with Temari and an unconscious Kankuro on his shoulders and sat them down just as Gaara hit the ground. Sasuke grinned beneath his mask and remarked, "Shoo. I could feel this fight from miles away, must have been fierce." Naruto laughed and said, "Yeah, it was almost like two demons going at it." Sasuke laughed a little and said, "No shit." As they seized their prisoners and ran away, Naruto remarked, "Let's get back to the village and mop up." Genma exclaimed, "Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu," as he blasted a huge fireball in Baki's direction. Baki shouted after barely avoiding the fireball. "Suna forces, retreat," he exclaimed as he and a few other Suna nin leapt from the arena. Itachi blew out a huge stream of flames in the shape of a dragon, burning several more Suna and Auto Shinobi as they attempted to flee. "Kaden. Karyu Enden." Jiraiya shouted, "Kaden. Gamyu Enden," as Gamabunta blasted a huge stream of oil in the direction of the three enormous summoned snakes. After that, Jiraiya struck the oil with a fireball and set it on fire, causing all of the snakes to burn and dissipate. 33, exclaimed Kakashi as he used his Chidori to dispatch another Suna Jonin. As the Auto Shinobi started to back away, Guy smashed their head in with his fist, shouting, "Yosh! It seems you win this time, my eternal rival." 30.2. Tora never even knew what hit him when a fish. Masked Anbu leapt from the ground, grabbed him from behind, and used a chakra scalpel to stab him in the back of the head after he had just slashed down multiple Auto Shinobi and was about to attack another group. "Great. The village will undoubtedly collapse with Orochimaru Sama eliminating the old bastard and the Anbu commander dead," the attacker declared as he took off his pilfered Anbu mask to reveal Kabuto before he vanished into the earth. "Fujin Shiki." Hiruzen shouted as his shadow clones seized hold of Hashirama and Tobirama. The Shinigami materialized behind him, a ghostly image of Hiruzen's hand on its chest, after he had the Edo Hokages in his grasp. After thrusting his arm through Hiruzen's chest, the Shinigami's arm emerged from the clones, capturing the souls of the Sho and Naidame, and from the real Hiruzen, capturing Oro. "You old man. Damn you. I will not allow it to end this way." Oro called his Kusanagi from behind Hiruzen and screamed out. Bound by trees, Enma was unable to reach the sword in time to prevent it from piercing Hiruzen's chest halfway. Hiruzen knew he didn't have enough time to completely remove Oro's soul because he could feel his life ebbing away. "Even though I didn't kill you today, I will take away what matters most to you, your jutsu," as the Shinigami withdrew Oro's soul. Arms and severed them with his sword before vanishing, Hiruzen let out a grunt. "Sarutobi, damn you." With his arms turning a sickly black, Oro screamed, "Drop the barrier, we're leaving." Before fleeing, the Sound Force swiftly dropped the barrier and seized Oro. "It's been a good run, Saru. I was honored to have known you." "And you, Enma." As his life was coming to an end, Hiruzen said, "Have a good." Now that the barrier was down, Yugao and Zabuza arrived at that precise moment. "Medic." When Yugao noticed that Hiruzen was down, she screamed. Enma said gravely, "It's no use, Neko. He used the Shiki Fujin. His soul was taken away." As the Auto and Suna forces started to withdraw, Naruto and Sasuke returned to the village and immediately headed back to the stadium. "Musu." As he and Sasuke turned over the three prisoners, Naruto uttered the words, "Take these three to the prison. Kuma, report." Kuma bowed and said, "Taiko. We pushed the forces out with few losses on our end. A loss of less than 40, roughly. However, Hokage, Sama and Tora, Taiko were regrettably included in those 40. In an attempt to control his emotions, Naruto muttered under his breath, "Shit, I see, as you were." He then vanished in a whirlpool of flames and resurfaced in the Hokage's office to discover Jiraiya already there, his head lowered on the desk. After removing his mask, Naruto approached Jiraiya and placed a hand on his shoulder. "How are you, Ero?" "Sennin, with Ero. Gaki, I'm hanging on. What about you?" "It's tough. He was like a grandfather to me, Yano, the only person who cared for me for most of my life." "I understand. He was also like a father to me. It will be difficult, but we must remain resilient because that is what he would have wanted." "Yes. We must work together to rebuild the village. I don't want to belittle Gigi's memory by moping over it." After a few days with Jiraiya sitting in his seat as one of the Sannin, along with the other clan heads Shikaku Nara, Shuza Akamichi, Inoichi Yamanaka, Shibi Aburame, Sume Inuzuka, Asuma Sarutobi, Hiyashi Hyuga, and Itachi Uchiha, as well as the elders Homura and Kaharu, Naruto has been attending as the acting Anbu commander while the majority of the village has been working to rebuild and clean up. As the council's leader, Itachi declared, "Okay, once again, I call this meeting of the Council of Fire to order. Are there any nominations regarding our Godem Hokage? Jiraiya. Sama is my nominee. For obvious reasons, he is very capable, Shikaku remarked. I decline. I can't be tied down because I have too much business outside of the village. Troublesome. Consider Itachi. Senpai. Everyone nodded a few times as Naruto added. I also decline. Trying to rebuild my clan and be the Jonin commander as it is, let alone the Hokage, is too much for me to handle. Well, who might it be? Shikaku raised his voice once more. What about Tsunade, my former teammate? Said Jiraiya. Well, I don't think she would be a good fit for the position either. She has already been out of the village for 15 years, moving from town to town, accruing debt, and stirring up trouble. A few people nodded when Hiyashi added, she is too carefree to hold such office. Hitaki Kakashi, Jiraiya, Itachi, and Naruto all laughed when Omura asked, and the others gave them amused looks. Wiping away a tear, Jiraiya remarked, shit, that was good. Kakashi is strong, intelligent, and a good leader, sure, but he will be late for his own funeral, he said. He can't handle the responsibility of being Hokage. Consider Naruto.kun. A sudden addition was made by Itachi. What the fuck? Jiraiya giggled a little when Naruto said that, and Hiyashi scowled at him while the other council members gave Itachi a explain look. Naruto.kun has had a flawless success rate as an Anbu captain for more than a year. His co-workers all commend his skills. Additionally, as the Anbu commander, he now holds the same rank as me. I'm too young to be the Hokage, don't you think? Naruto inquired. No, age is irrelevant. Sarutobi became Hokage at the age of 13. Even though you are only 12, you are one of the strongest people in our village because of your unwavering will. Jiraiya, Sama, myself, and perhaps Kakashi, who has years of experience, are the only people here who can fight you on an even playing field. All Naruto could manage to say was, are you in favor of the nomination? Shikaku inquired, eager to finish this. I guess, all right, so Naruto becoming the Godem is acceptable? All but Hiyashi raised their hands as Itachi spoke. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was elected the Godem Hokage of Konoha by a majority vote. Congratulations, Naruto.kun, Itachi concluded with a smile. This is just a freaking dream, wow. There is no other explanation. Gaara must have kicked me in the ass. Naruto remarked, I won't believe that I'm actually the Hokage, but I could handle the Anbu commander halfway. Jiraiya approached Naruto and gave him a pat on the head before guiding him to the council chief. Believe it, Ero, Gaki, Sama. Now Hokage. Sama, we must pick a new Anbu commander, Itachi responded. Before he woke up, Naruto just sat there and gazed into space for a while, allowing things to sink in. Are you able to suggest anything? Tenzo seems like the next best option after you, in my opinion. In addition to his nearly flawless record and remarkable skills, he has been a captain for some time. Yes, I do recall Tenzo. His Mokuton techniques are extremely proficient. The others all nodded when Naruto finished his report. I always saw Jiji Sama do this. I wonder if it is an inherited skill of the Hokage, Kuma. He said the first part to himself, but Jiraiya chuckled when he heard it because Kuma had suddenly appeared. All right, then, I nominate Tenzo as the next Anbu commander. Yes, Hokage. Sama. Whoa, would you please locate Tenzo and bring him here, Kuma? He vanished in a whirl of leaves, and Kuma said, Hi, Hokage. Sama. Do you want to talk about anything else, Hokage? Sama? Itachi inquired. You don't have to act honorably, Itachi. Senpai. You used to be my commander and Jonin. Sensei. Even though Tsunade wasn't a good fit for Hokage, Ero. Sennin, how likely is it that she would return to lead a new medic.nin corps? Doubtful, but we can try. All right, we'll discuss that later. For now, that's all I have. Shikaku said languidly, secretly relieved that the mess was over and he had avoided becoming the Hokage. Very well, I make a motion that we adjourn. Inoichi said, I'll second that motion. As everyone started to depart, Itachi remarked, very well, the meeting is now adjourned. Eventually, the only people left in the room were Itachi, Jiraiya, and Naruto. Once more, congratulations, Gaki. In Konoha's history, you are the youngest Hokage. Your father would be pleased with you. Thanks, Ero. Sennin. Naruto said, grinning broadly, you know, you can't call me Ero Gaki anymore now that I'm the Hokage. Oh. Sure I can, Ero Gaki. Grr. Congratulations to Naruto.kun once more. Mother would love to prepare a celebratory dinner for you, So how about you come over to our house tonight? Itachi asked. Of course. Itachi. Senpai, thank you. It's no longer Senpai, I'm your subordinate now, Hokage. Sama. Jiraiya and Itachi laughed as Naruto grabbed his head in a mocking gesture of pain, saying, "Oh yay, this is just too much to take in at once. It'll come in time, arrow." Gaki. At this point, Makoto, Itachi, Sasuke, Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya are all seated around a table in Makoto's house, enjoying a royal dinner. A king who loved ramen, but still a king. Sasuke, who was still unaware of Naruto's promotion, inquired, "So Ka-chan, what is the occasion for the dinner?" With a sing-song voice, Makoto exclaimed, "It's a celebration, of course." Sasuke gave her a mocking glare. "What are we celebrating though?" Makoto smiled, saying, "Well, you'll see in a minute." Her smile said, "I know something you don't, nanner boo boo." After that, Sasuke gave up, and for a few more minutes, the group ate and engaged in small talk before Jiraiya revealed the truth. "Well, Hokage. Sama, don't you have something to say?" Sasuke and Hinata both looked at Itachi and asked, "Hokage. Sama?" Itachi just shook his head, "No," and laughed. If Jiraiya said that, then it means it's not him. Itachi said no too, so that leaves, Sasuke was thinking. At the same moment as Sasuke, Hinata thought, apparently it isn't Ero, Senin or Itachi Sensei, nor me or Sasuke-kun, so. At the same moment, Sasuke and Hinata exclaimed, Naruto/Naruto-kun? Jiraiya exclaimed, "Hey, that's Ero. Gaki. Sama to you now," and then he found himself on the ground, his head nodded. "Bastard." With a look of surprise on his face, Sasuke asked, "So you're really the Hokage now, Naruto?" Naruto mocked, sulked and said, "Apparently so. I didn't agree, but Itachi wouldn't take no for an answer. You are the best person in the village for the job right now, Naruto. Sama. All you lack is experience, and what better way to get experience running a village than running the village? You've already made a name for yourself as an Anbu captain. Add in the fact that you are so young, and it's a winning combination. Thanks Itachi, if you call me Sama again, you're on gate duty for a month." Naruto used Makoto's sweet voice to say this with a spooky smile. Everyone started to perspire when Itachi said, "Hi, sorry Hokage, SSSS-kun." Naruto replaced the eerie smile with a genuine one and remarked, "Much better. Anyways, congratulations Hokage-kun. A toast for Naruto-kun, the Godem Hokage," Makoto screamed. The glasses were lifted into the air by all, Itachi remarked, "to a long and prosperous reign." Sasuke began, "To becoming the daimyo because I won't lose to OWWW. Long live the Godem." His mother corrected him by slapping him in the back of the head. Jiraiya shouted, "To a new kunoichi dress code," just before Makoto and Hinata attacked him. Makoto and Hinata smiled brightly and sat back down as if nothing had happened after making a attitude adjustment. Everyone else chanted, "To the Godem," before they all drank their preferred beverages. Everyone was having a great time and drinking themselves silly as the party continued into the night. After a week, it would be an understatement to say that Naruto was anxious on this day of his coronation. Even those who held Kitsune in the highest regard hated Naruto Uzumaki, and he was well aware of this. Despite everyone's best efforts to reassure him, he was afraid that once he was announced, the populace might start to riot. After entering and placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder, Jiraiya remarked, "5 minutes arrow. Gaki. Sama. Don't worry, it'll be fine." Naruto answered, "I'm afraid they won't accept me arrow, Senin." "It's fine kid, we're all here for you. Now I'm going out there to announce you, be ready." The screams were nearly deafening when Jiraiya opened the door that led to the Hokage Tower's rooftop balcony. Jiraiya, Sasuke, Itachi, Hinata, Tenzo, the council, and a number of other Anbu guards made their way to the balcony's edge. "People of Konoha, it is with great pleasure that I present you all with the new Hokage. Please welcome." Naruto burst into a particularly ostentatious whirlpool of flames, appearing next to Jiraiya. When the flames subsided, Naruto was seen wearing a coat that resembled Minato's but was light gray, almost silver, with red and blue flames. When Naruto appeared, everyone, with the exception of the younger ones, did a double take. "Yandaime, Sama?" Naruto exclaimed, "Naruto Namikaze," as his flames totally extinguished. He introduced himself, and some of the crowd's thoughts were, "Namikaze? Yandaime had a son? No way? Isn't that the demon brat?" When Ino saw him emerge, she screamed in her mind, Naruto-kun. What the fuck? I'm definitely going to rape the fuck out of him, Hinata or not. One girl with pink hair thought, no fucking way. Him? He is a monster though, isn't he? Although I am also Kitsune, the Anbu captain, it doesn't matter now because Naruto Namikaze is the only thing that matters. Most of you might not recognize me, and some of you might even hate me as Naruto Uzumaki, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Yes, I am the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. My father gave his life to seal the demon inside of me and ensure the safety of this village. The words, but Naruto Uzumaki is the demon brat, but he is also an Anbu captain, and the Yondaime's son, wow, were now circulating among the populace. Naruto then paused for a moment before saying, be assured, I have spent every day since my birth protecting this village, and I will do until I breathe my last breath. As everyone is aware, our Sandame, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was killed in combat a little more than a week ago. We must remain united as a village and pay tribute to him. The foundation of this village was the will of fire, which Sarutobi Sama embodied in his life. Like his predecessors and successor, he left a huge void for the next Hokage to fill. The Council of Fire has selected me to be the one, but it is difficult to live up to the reputation of someone like the Kiroi Senko or the Kami no Shinobi. I promise my will of fire and everything I am that I will not only meet but surpass their expectations. You could hear a pin drop among the crowd as Naruto paused once more. I will do everything in my power to make sure this village remains prosperous. Because I am Konoha's Godem Hokage. As flames started to dance into the sky and swirl around him, he screamed out. There was a brief period of silence as the speech took hold, but then the crowd erupted in a thunderous cheer, demonstrating their support for their new leader. Of course, some people were shouting in indignation, but their voices were overpowered by the cheers. The Godem, Naruto Namikaze, may you live forever, the crowd chanted. Naruto grinned slightly as Jiraiya and Itachi approached him and placed their hands on his shoulder. Wow, they actually accept me, he said. Excellent. Jiraiya patted Naruto on the back and remarked, I haven't heard a speech that gave me goosebumps and got a crowd that fired up since your dad was around. Jiraiya did a great job, Naruto-kun. You will be the greatest Hokage yet, I'm sure of it. Thank you all. Without you two, I couldn't have succeeded. Naruto grinned broadly as he reveled in the recognition. He blushed a little and froze when Hinata gave him a back hug and said, Congratulations Hokage-kun. As he and Itachi left laughing, Jiraiya remarked, even the Hokage can be so easily beaten if one knows the right buttons to push. Naruto was not one to be defeated, so his surprise was short-lived. Before Hinata could react, Naruto turned around and put his face an inch from hers. Now, the tables were reversed, and she blushed and froze in disbelief. Hina. Thank you. Before giving her a passionate kiss on the lips, Naruto said, I couldn't have made it here without you. Hinata fainted at the first touch, so she wouldn't know how intense the kiss was. To the cheers of his former Anbu brethren in the council, with the exception of Hiashi, who went to check himself into the hospital for a suspected stroke after witnessing the demon Hokage defile his former daughter, Naruto carried her off to the side and sat her down before returning to the crowd. You are messed up, Naruto, you know that. Sasuke approached Naruto and gave him a pat on the back, saying, What's next, Chunin? You went from village outcast to academy student to Anbu captain to Genin to Hokage. As the two of them giggled at their dysfunctional lives, Naruto remarked, No shit, definitely not normal. Who knows, in some fucked up world I may end up being something really off the wall, like Supreme Commander of the Allied Shinobi Forces or some shit. Probably. Hey man, in order for me to claim that I kicked the Hokage's ass, we must spar tomorrow. You couldn't kick his hideous ass, let alone wipe it. Furthermore, I'm still really busy at the moment, Naruto smirked in response. Is heinous? Fantastic. What a power trip. Playfully punching Naruto in the arm, Sasuke uttered those words. 4 Anbu suddenly materialized around Sasuke brandishing their weapons, and one of them declared, Uchiha Sasuke, you are under arrest for assaulting the Hokage. Naruto paused for dramatic effect, and Sasuke's expression was one of genuine concern. And I find you to be guilty. The charges will be public humiliation. As the Anbu erupted in laughter, Naruto concluded and took out a camera to capture Sasuke's face. Sasuke glared at Naruto and muttered, Bastard. Hey, to you, that is now bastard. Sama. Naruto laughed in response. A certain blonde girl had gotten through the crowd and was now waiting at the door as they celebrated the new Hokage on the roof of the Hokage Tower for a while after Naruto's prank. Knowing that Naruto would visit Ichiraku's following the coronation, Ino waited for him to emerge at the door for a few hours. At last, as she had anticipated, Naruto emerged from the door, but she was not pleased to see Sasuke, Itachi, Jiraiya, and Hinata accompanying him. Why is she with him? Goddammit. When Ino saw Hinata, she thought, grr. How are things going, Ino-chan? Naruto addressed her. Though no one noticed the faint flinch when she said, Hinata, Ino responded, Hey Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, Itachi. Sama, Jiraiya. Sama, Hinata. Would you like to join us as we head to Ichiraku's? As she scooted closer to Naruto, Ino said in a hauntingly sweet voice, Sure, it's not every day that a girl gets to go out with the Hokage. How in the hell does this bitch believe she's doing it? As she attempted to shoot death rays from her eyes at the blonde, Hinata thought. After 10 minutes after arriving at Ichiraku's, the group quickly found seats and placed their orders, with Naruto receiving the newly named Hokage's favorite, which was an endless supply of miso ramen. Following some small talk, the food was brought out, and everyone started to eat when the girl with the pink hair mentioned earlier appeared. She approached the table and said, Hey Naruto. Who is this, I wonder? Searching for recollections of this girl, Naruto eventually located his one interaction with her from his time at the academy, when he bonded with Sasuke. You mean Sakura? Naruto, I just wanted to congratulate you on becoming the Hokage, and apologize for what happened back in the academy. Don't worry about it. I've spent the majority of my life in abuse. I wasn't going to let another academy student stop me. For example, why did you not graduate with the group this year? Well, sometime after you and Sasuke-kun left, I realized that the only reason I had been in the program was because of him, but now I regret quitting, even if I don't have enough chakra to ever be a good kunoichi. I see. Come to my office in the morning, okay? I need to talk to you. Despite her confusion about what he could want with her, Sakura agreed before heading out. With her gaki, what do you want? Jiraiya inquired. Even for an academy student, she has pitiful reserves, but her Chunin level control is low. I'll ask her if she wants to work in the new medical division. I see, good thinking I suppose. Yes, the Hokage needs to be alert and ready for anything at all times. Everyone started to perspire when Naruto yelled, grinning. Before departing through Shunshin, Hinata remarked, Well Naruto-kun, it's late, I'm heading home. And I'm going to the hot springs to see the late night crowd. Jiraiya smiled lecherously as he said this before he too shunned away. Since I have a busy day tomorrow, I suppose I should go as well. Naruto got up and said, See ya tomorrow. Sasuke, Itachi, and Ino-chan. Naruto and Ino were left alone as Itachi and Sasuke departed via Shunshin, saying, See ya. This is like a dream. I can't believe I ended up with him alone. In her mind, Ino let out a giddy scream. Don't you think you should be getting back too before your parents start to worry? Naruto asked as he walked back to Ino after paying the bill. As she began to move toward him, Ino purred out, Oh, it's no big hurry, they know where I am. You could walk me home if you want though, Hokage-kun. The final line didn't pass Naruto's thick head. With Ino rushing to catch up, Naruto said, Sure thing, let's go, and began to leave. So Naruto-kun, congratulations on becoming Hokage, Ino replied. Thank you. I still find it hard to believe, however, I swear that I will be the greatest Hokage this village has ever seen. Now that she had gradually gotten close enough to seize Naruto's arm, Ino said, I think you Naruto-kun. When she wrapped her arm around Naruto's, he thought, what is she doing? Ino-chan, what are you doing? Just walking, was her naive response. But why are you gripping my arm? Are you not fond of it? I can stop if you want, Ino said, doing the puppy eyes technique on him. Damn, I don't want to hurt her feelings. No, it's fine I guess. Hey, sinker, line, and hook, Ino cheered in his head. As she nestled into his side, she said, Thanks Naruto-kun. With a mental perspiration, Naruto said, Damn, I think I'm being taken advantage of. They passed in front of Ino's house after a few minutes of walking in what was either comfortable or uncomfortable silence, depending on who you asked. I appreciate you walking me home. Is there anything I can do to return the favor? Ino moved from his side to his chest and put her arms around his shoulders after saying this in her most seductive voice. It's no problem Ino-chan, don't worry about it, he said. Are you certain? She began bringing her face closer to his and cooed, I really wouldn't mind returning the favor. No really, it's... Ino interrupted Naruto as she kissed him. Naruto was startled, to put it mildly, by her unexpected touch, but he lost himself and started kissing her back. As they gasped for breath, Ino purred, Naruto-kun, you know, Both of my parents are out tonight and won't be back until late. We could take this up to my room if you want, she said. He started to say, I don't think we should, but Ino interrupted him, kissing him once more before guiding him inside while he was distracted. Keeping his mind occupied with other things, Ino skillfully led him upstairs to her room, and once they were inside, she locked the door before turning back to face him. As she snaked her hands up his shirt and started to rub his chest, Ino practically whispered, Don't worry Naruto-kun. My parents won't be home for another few hours at least. When she began massaging his chest, the chibi perv in his head swiftly silenced Naruto's warning bells, which were screeching with full force. He started to say, I really shouldn't be, but she interrupted him again, leaning forward and kissing his neck. Ino responded, Please Hokage-kun, as she leaned back again and began dragging him to her bed. Naruto blushed deeply at the position they were in, and when they reached the bed, she fell backwards, dragging him down on top of her. As she started to shimmy out of her shirt, Ino purred, The sight of Ino's bare chest caused a trickle of blood to flow from Naruto's nose. Ino. Chan, be quiet. Ino took one of his hands and put it on her breast, saying, Play with them. Wow, I can't do this. Hold on. Hinata. Chan would be devastated. Ino, stop. Naruto said, I can't do this, as he moved away from her and got to his feet. However, do you not like what you see, Naruto-kun? Squeezing her breasts together, Ino stood up as well and responded. Naruto said, It's not that, I just can't do this. Then he turned away and vanished in a tiny whirlpool of flame. Fuck. I was very near. When he was gone, Ino screamed in exasperation, I will succeed Naruto-kun, just wait. A short distance from Ino's house, Naruto appeared on the street before swiftly vanishing in a burst of yellow and resurfacing atop the Hokage monument. I don't know what the devil happened to me back there, but even though Hinata-chan is attractive, I think I love her. It's not right, but at least I'm not with her, so it's not that bad. Who am I to say that I feel unclean? Before vanishing in another burst of yellow and resurfacing outside the Hokage tower, Naruto thought, I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. He hurried to his office and then his house, where he discovered Hinata reading some kind of scroll on the couch. As he entered, Hinata looked up from the scroll and said, Hey Naruto-kun. The only response Naruto gave was to disappear and then reappear directly in front of her before dragging her from the couch and embracing her. Though slightly flushed, Hinata was still conscious and pondered what was happening. After releasing her from the embrace, Naruto swiftly transformed it into a passionate kiss, causing Hinata's blush to darken a few shades, but she was able to stay conscious and kiss him back. Naruto-kun. What's the occasion? Before Hinata went limp in Naruto's arms, he nearly whispered, Hinata-chan, I love you. Before Hinata went limp in Naruto's arms, he nearly whispered, Hinata-chan, I love you. Naruto sat down on the couch and placed her head on his lap, thinking, all that work with Anko and Kurenai helped her confidence, but I guess that was kind of shocking. Hinata sat for a few minutes, then started to stir, opened her eyes, and blushed when she realized where she was. Naruto-kun. Hinata leaned up to give Naruto a kiss on the lips, interrupting him. Hina-chan, I'm sorry but I felt like I had to say that, if you don't feel the same I under. The brief kiss ended with her almost whispering, Naruto-kun il. Love you too. Really? Hinata nodded in agreement as Naruto spoke quietly. I have essentially always done so. I couldn't help but fall in love with you because you were my first friend and you've always treated me so well. I've just been too afraid to speak up because I wasn't sure if you felt the same way. Before Naruto made the decision to speak up once more, the now couple sat in contented silence. Oh, you've been living here and taking care of me for a few years now, as if you were my wife anyhow, so I suppose it's just normal. Without you, I'm not sure what I would have done. After a brief chuckle, Hinata said, Yeah, I suppose you're right. You are kind of helpless without me. Hey, I'm not that bad, Naruto grinned at her. Naru-kun, if it wasn't for me living here you would have ate ramen for 3 meals a day. A black anime depression cloud then engulfed Naruto. Yeah, you're probably right. At least we don't have to worry about that, do we? Cheer up, Hinata said, suppressing a laugh at his antics. Naruto drew Hinata into another kiss and said, Nope, and I'm glad of that. The following morning, you still want to be a shinobi, Sakura? Sakura looked down at the floor and answered, Hi, but I don't have good enough reserves. I might know how to solve that. You seem like a good fit for our medic program, which I'm about to revamp. You truly believe that? Sakura inquired, her enthusiasm audible in her tone. Huh. Later today, Jiraiya and I are going to leave the village in order to locate Tsunade and bring her back here to head it up. Wow, you mean I'd have the opportunity to learn from a renowned Sannin? Yes, if you're accepted by Tsunade. She would ultimately make the decision, so I'm giving you a week or so until we return to prepare yourself to win her over. You're fired. Sakura bowed and said, "Thank you Hokage Sama." She then departed Naruto's office. Before Jiraiya emerged from the shadows, Naruto said, "Okay, Jiraiya, come on out." "Alright, Ero. Gaki. Sama, are you prepared to leave?" Naruto muttered under his breath, "Have I ever mentioned how much I hate you? Yay, I'm ready as soon as Itachi gets here." After a few minutes, "Thanks for covering for me Itachi, hopefully we should be back in a week or so." "It's no problem, I don't mind running the village, I just can't do it full time." Naruto turned to leave, saying, "Anyway, you know how to reach me if need be but I'm sure you can handle things." After a few more minutes, the village gates. "So, Ero. Sennin, do you know where I can find Tsunade?" "Not entirely. We only know that she is somewhere in High no Kuni. We'll just have to look for her, but I have a hint." "I understand. I've heard about her attitude toward Konoha, so I hope she's not too tough." Jiraiya shuddered at the idea. "Yay, me too, after a few more hours, a random trading town." "Hey Ero. Gaki, I'll see if I can find out anything about Tsunade, so why don't you go find us a room?" As he and Naruto parted ways to attend to their separate tasks, Jiraiya remarked, "I should be back before too long." Well, the fucking Hokage is me. How could I have allowed him to put me in such a bad job? As he entered the closest hotel, Naruto pondered. "How may I be of assistance to you today, sir?" the young cashier behind the counter said. "Please give me a room for the night," Naruto said. "Of course, is it only you?" "No, I'll need 2 beds please." The clerk turned to a rack of keys behind her and took one, saying, "Okay. Here you go, that'll be 120 ryo please." After taking out several ryo notes, Naruto gave them to the girl and said, "Thank you." As Naruto left the lobby and headed for his room, the girl smiled and said, "Thank you, have a good night." Naruto arrived at the room and entered in a matter of minutes. He sat down on a couch and promptly dozed off. Unknown amount of time later, knock, knock, knock. Naruto got up, walked over to the door, and opened it carelessly, complaining, "Grr, damn it, I didn't give Jiraiya his key." Naruto was quickly awakened by what he saw. "Well, it appears that you are not who I anticipated. What brought you here?" Naruto. "Sama, we just came to have a brief conversation with you," a big blue man said. "Oh, and who might you two be?" "I am Kisame Hoshigaki, and this is my partner, Raiga Kurasuki. We are both formerly members of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, and now we are members of Akatsuki." "Akatsuki?" inquired Naruto. Raiga and Kisame placed their hands on the hilts of their swords and said, "Yes, we are a group of S-rank missing nin from all across the country. Now then, would you like to come with us the easy way, or the hard way?" Naruto questioned, "What business does this Akatsuki have with me?" As he and Raiga pulled out their blades, Kisame asked, "Why would I tell you that? I guess you're choosing the hard way?" Kisame smiled broadly as Naruto merely drew his sword. "I fucking love the hard way." Kisame cut down toward Naruto and exclaimed. Before having to parry a blow from Raiga, which knocked him back several feet anyhow, Naruto leapt back to avoid the slash that had just torn a hole in the floor where he was standing. Naruto muttered under his breath, "Aw shit," before he had to avoid another of Kisame's slashes. Kisame yelled angrily, "Hold still, Gaki, I promise it won't hurt much." Naruto had to take another step back to avoid Raiga's slash just as he was getting his bearings. He was slightly unbalanced by Raiga's attack, which allowed Naruto to create a Rasengan and thrust it in his direction. Raiga was unable to completely dodge the Rasengan's blow to his chest, but he was able to twist his body just in time, allowing the ball of chakra to bounce off his shoulder and send him flying into a wall. According to Kisame, who appeared in front of Naruto mid-strike, "Well done Gaki, not many people alive are good enough to even land a hit on Raiga." Although Naruto managed to raise his sword in time to block, Samahata was only slowed down long enough for him to jump back before it broke. He mentally screamed, "Shit, I'm in some serious trouble here." A fresh voice yelled, "Rasengan," as Kisame swiftly materialized in front of Naruto, lowering his sword to render the young Hokage unconscious. Jiraiya appeared next to Kisame and pushed a Rasengan into his chest just before his attack touched down. Kisame and Raiga left the room and fled into the hallway, determined to get away. "Shit. Raiga, let's go for now," We can't defeat them both at once, they exclaimed. Jiraiya shouted, not so fast. Kachiyose. Gamaguchi Shibari. As the hallway's walls changed to a pink, fleshy substance. No one has ever escaped this method before. It is the esophagus of a great toad from Mount Myobaku, and its walls are impenetrable. Everything has its first time. Raiga yelled before touching his two swords together. Raryu. He and Kisame were able to jump through and escape when a huge ball of lightning formed between Raiga's blades before shooting out and exploding a hole through the side of the toad wall. I am impossible. Jiraiya mumbled in shock, no one has ever broken out of here before. You've never used it on an S-rank missing nin before, I suppose. Gosh. Naruto retreated into the room and made his way to his bed, where he promptly fell asleep after saying, well, they're gone now. I'm going back to bed, see ya in the morning. The following morning. So, did you discover anything last night regarding Tsunade? As they were eating breakfast, Naruto questioned Jiraiya. Nothing good. She spent a night here a few days ago. We will simply need to relocate to the next town and continue our efforts. Naruto sighed, got up from the table, and dressed, followed shortly after by Jiraiya. Great, this is gonna take forever. After packing and getting ready to leave, the two headed for the next town to start their search over. A few days later, whoa, this place was really messed up. After they discovered a demolished castle in Tanzaku town, Jiraiya remarked, looks like we found Tsunade. Yes, she has undoubtedly visited us recently. We'll just have to look in bars and casinos until we find her, I suppose. After that, the two started their quest and looked through the neighborhood, adult establishments, until it was getting close to nightfall. Oh my god. Is she somehow invisible? I'm starved. Let's stop in here and grab something to eat, Naruto screamed in exasperation. Jiraiya shouted, Tsunade. As she and Naruto turned and headed into the restaurant, heading for a booth near the back. What the fuck? Really, of all places, a restaurant, Naruto muttered. Jiraiya. Why are you here? After saying this, Tsunade gestured for Jiraiya and Naruto to take a seat. Tsunade spoke up once more after Jiraiya and Naruto had taken their seats. So, who's the Gaki? Naruto growled as she gestured at him. It's Naruto Namikaze here, the son of Minato and Kushina. Huh, I thought he died in the Kyuubi attack. No, we just didn't want to reveal his identity due to the number of enemies Minato had. I see. I suppose that makes sense. In any case, why are you two here? Actually, we were trying to find you. Come back to the village, please. No, we need you back, so hurry up. Do you still harbor resentment after 20 years have passed? Yes, I don't have any pleasant memories of that location. I will not return there and take Sarutobi's place. Naruto made the decision to speak now, saying, actually. After all, who the hell would want to be the Hokage? Naruto became irate at this point. Take a look at previous Hokages. Sarutobi is the only one who survived past the age of 40, and he was still killed. An idiot would only be. Listen to me, damn it. Naruto interrupted her speech with a shout. Who in hell do you think you're speaking to me in that manner? Tsunade glared at Naruto and screamed out as she got to her feet. I'm the fucking. Naruto glared back, leaping to his feet. No one speaks to me like that, regardless of who you are. Would you like to resolve this outside? Jiraiya stated, I don't think that's a good idea, Tsunade. This brat needs to be put in his place, but I won't hurt him too much. Jiraiya sighed as the two blondes stepped out into the street, saying, but, okay, whatever. Hey brat, I'll tell you what, I'll only use one finger to kick your ass, just to make it fair. This is bad. Jiraiya took another sigh. Shizune helpfully added, don't worry, she won't hurt him too bad. It's not Naruto I'm worried about. Are you not confident, Ba-san? Okay, how about we place a wager? Naruto grinned as he spoke. Grandmother, for that, I'll kill you, but with that wager, you've struck my tender spot. What are the conditions? You beat me, we leave you alone, and I'll give you all the money I have on me. You return to Konoha and give me the necklace you're wearing. You can even use all of your resources. Agree. Proceed. You can't risk your necklace, Tsunade. As Naruto vanished from view, Shizune yelled from the sidelines, she's in trouble, isn't she? Quietly, she continued, and Jiraiya simply grinned and nodded. As Naruto emerged in front of her with his fist cocked back, Tsunade thought, damn, this kid is fast, no matter, he's no match for me. Tsunade was blown several feet backwards by the force of the punch he threw at her face, even though she was able to raise her arm and block it. Very good for a Gaki, huh? She said, launching herself back at him with the intention of punching him once to end the altercation. Imagine Tsunade's shock when she saw the spiraling ball of chakra in Naruto's other hand in addition to him taking her punch. Shit! As Naruto uppercut the ball into her stomach, sending her skyward, she screamed out. Shizune stammered, Tsunade, while Jiraiya simply smiled. Naruto took a three-pronged kunai from his coat and threw it past her, knowing that she was a Sannin and that something so basic wouldn't kill her. Hey, I'm so lucky you hit me. You're not even capable of throwing a. Tsunade became aware of what had happened as she noticed a yellow flash behind her and a sharp pain in her back, both of which were caused by Naruto's axe kick. A cloud of dust covered the street as Tsunade's body slammed into the earth. Naruto was standing over Tsunade, his kunai at her throat, when the dust cloud lifted. How? Tumbled Tsunade. Shizune said, He just annihilated Tsunade. Sama. Yes. With his trademark smile, Jiraiya remarked, I tried to warn her. Well Gaki, I'm a woman of my word, I suppose I'll come back and be the Hokage. You old hag, would you listen for once? You shouldn't be the Hokage, in our opinion. Naruto shouted, turning around to reveal the kanji for fifth on the back of his coat to Tsunade. Feeling about 4 inches tall, she muttered, Oh, so why do you want me to return? To be the head of a new combat medic program. Oh, that's logical. But hold on, how are you doing as the Hokage? You're about 12. Beats me, Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders. I ended up getting the job for some reason, but it was between you, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Itachi Uchiha, and me. As he approached and assisted her in leaving the crater she was lying in, Jiraiya remarked, Anyway, we need to get to bed where we can leave out in the morning. Actually, since I'm going back to Konoha, I have some news. Orochimaru smiled and said, So Tsunade, you decided to accept my offer, I see. Yay. We were teammates for a long time, I can't forget that. I don't approve of what you did to Sarutobi Sensei, but I can't say I care about the village, she responded. Excellent, thank you Tsunade. Tsunade's hands briefly turned green before she approached Oro, saying, Okay, just hold still for a moment. Kabuto shouted, Wait, and hurled a kunai at Tsunade. With the healing jutsu disengaged, she jumped back to avoid the kunai. Oro exclaimed, What is the meaning of this Kabuto? As Kabuto moved to separate the two Sannin. She was trying to kill you Orochimaru. Sama. Orochimaru glared at Tsunade and hissed, I see, so you are still loyal to that doomed village after all. Yay, I guess I am. Now it's time for you to die. Tsunade screamed as she rushed forward and punched Orochimaru with a chakra-enhanced blow. Oro grinned as the two of them dodged. Oh well, I can be healed by other means. You have outlived your usefulness to me Tsunade, and you always were too weak to beat me alone, much less when you're outnumbered. Jiraiya and Naruto decided it would be a good idea to show up out of the blue and make him regret what he had said. Oro remarked, Well, Jiraiya too. It seems we have a good ol' reunion, huh? Kabuto? As Kabuto started performing hand seals while biting his thumb. Tsunade and Jiraiya soon realized and followed suit. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kabuto all shouted simultaneously as smoke filled the field. When the smoke eventually cleared, Manda, Katsuyu, and Gamabunta were seen looking down at one another. Manda hissed, Gamabunta, Katsuyu, what do I owe the honor? Bunta pulled out his tanto and jumped in Manda's direction, saying, Great, my wife has been wanting a snakeskin wallet lately, this is the perfect chance. Moving surprisingly fast for a snake, Manda dodged Bunta's slash before having to leap away again to avoid Katsuyu's acid stream. Bunta refused to back down, jumping at Manda and slashing at him again, forcing Manda to duck. Jiraiya exclaimed, Naruto, as Naruto teleported to Manda in a burst of yellow light after throwing a kunai to the ground close to where Manda was about to land. Naruto shouted, Doden. Yomi Numa, as he slapped his palms to the ground and emerged close to the kunai. As soon as Manda touched down, the ground turned into a swamp. As Naruto continued to pour chakra into the swamp, he sank deeper and deeper until the big snake sank up and struggled to escape. After realizing it was pointless, Manda dispelled himself, allowing Naruto to move just in time to avoid Kabuto's chakra scalpel. Naruto grinned and remarked, HMPH, so I get to bring down the traitor I see. Kabuto adjusted his glasses and remarked, You don't stand a chance with me Naruto-kun. I am equal to Kakashi in power. Naruto began, Funny thing is. Before vanishing from view, from right next to Kabuto, he whispered, I'm stronger than him. Kabuto's eyes widened, but that was the only response he could muster before Naruto had him flipping along the ground. And then, just above him, Naruto reappeared. Kaden. Rasengan! He exclaimed as he pushed the compressed flame ball in Kabuto's direction. Kabuto was caught in the shockwave and blown backwards several feet, but he managed to right himself and jump out of the way just in time. Kabuto thought to himself, what raw power, I may have bitten off more than I can chew here, as the flames and smoke subsided and a smiling Naruto emerged. Naruto chuckled and asked, Kabuto-kun, do you still think I have no chance? Kabuto had no response, so he simply jumped at Naruto and sparred with him briefly using taijutsu before using a chakra scalpel to stab Naruto in the arm. Kabuto and Naruto both leapt back to regain a moment. The two stared at each other for a moment before Naruto laughed and started talking. With his eyes changing into his Mangekyo, he remarked, well, I've had enough fun, time to finish this. Kabuto took a moment to look into his eyes. He stammered, T. That's the Sharingan, but how? Kabuto's eyes glazed over, and Naruto said, that's not important. Tsukiyomi. He screamed bloody murder and collapsed to the ground, unconscious, in a matter of seconds. Kabuto. Oro cried out as soon as he saw Kabuto fall, you little bastard, you're dead. Oro left his battle with Jiraiya and ran in Naruto's direction. Jiraiya shouted, Naruto run, because he couldn't get there in time to stop Orochimaru. Telling Oro, die pedophile, Naruto hurled a kunai at him. Unaware of what had transpired, he barked, pathetic brat, you can't even throw a kunai right. Oro's eyes widened as Naruto merely smirked at him before vanishing in a flash of yellow. Naruto screamed, Rasengan, and materialized behind Oro, holding a Rasengan in each hand before sending them into the snake's back. Oro exclaimed, ah, as the Rasengans ripped into his back and blasted him out. He was able to get up and shunshin to Kabuto before Jiraiya or Naruto could pursue him. He shouted, this isn't over. Konoha will burn, as the two dug into the earth. Naruto exclaimed, shit, they got away, after they had left. Jiraiya approached Naruto and said, it's okay, we'll get them some other time, Gaki. We should head back now. Yay. Let's go. Orochimaru smiled and said, so Tsunade, you decided to accept my offer, I see. Yay. We were teammates for a long time, I can't forget that. I don't approve of what you did to Sarutobi Sensei, but I can't say I care about the village, she responded. Excellent, thank you Tsunade. Tsunade's hands briefly turned green before she approached Oro, saying, okay, just hold still for a moment. Kabuto shouted, wait, and hurled a kunai at Tsunade. With the healing jutsu disengaged, she jumped back to avoid the kunai. Oro exclaimed, what is the meaning of this, Kabuto? As Kabuto moved to separate the two Sannin. She was trying to kill you, Orochimaru. Sama. Orochimaru glared at Tsunade and hissed, I see, so you are still loyal to that doomed village after all. Yay, I guess I am. Now it's time for you to die. Tsunade screamed as she rushed forward and punched Orochimaru with a chakra enhanced blow. Oro grinned as the two of them dodged. Oh well, I can be healed by other means. You have outlived your usefulness to me, Tsunade, and you always were too weak to beat me alone, much less when you're outnumbered. Jiraiya and Naruto decided it would be a good idea to show up out of the blue and make him regret what he had said. Oro remarked, well, Jiraiya too. It seems we have a good ol' reunion, huh? Kabuto? As Kabuto started performing hand seals while biting his thumb. Tsunade and Jiraiya soon realized and followed suit. Kachiyose no Jutsu, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kabuto all shouted simultaneously as smoke filled the field. When the smoke eventually cleared, Manda, Katsuyu, and Gamabunta were seen looking down at one another. Manda hissed, Gamabunta, Katsuyu, what do I owe the honor? Bunta pulled out his tanto and jumped in Manda's direction, saying, great, my wife has been wanting a snakeskin wallet lately, this is the perfect chance. Moving surprisingly fast for a snake, Manda dodged Bunta's slash before having to leap away again to avoid Katsuyu's acid stream. Bunta refused to back down, jumping at Manda and slashing at him again, forcing Manda to duck. Jiraiya exclaimed, Naruto, as Naruto teleported to Manda in a burst of yellow light after throwing a kunai to the ground close to where Manda was about to land. Naruto shouted, Doden. Yomi Numa, as he slapped his palms to the ground and emerged close to the kunai. As soon as Manda touched down, the ground turned into a swamp. As Naruto continued to pour chakra into the swamp, he sank deeper and deeper until the big snake sank up and struggled to escape. After realizing it was pointless, Manda dispelled himself, allowing Naruto to move just in time to avoid Kabuto's chakra scalpel. Naruto grinned and remarked, HMPH, so I get to bring down the traitor I see. Kabuto adjusted his glasses and remarked, you don't stand a chance with me Naruto-kun. I am equal to Kakashi in power. Naruto began, funny thing is. Before vanishing from view, from right next to Kabuto, he whispered, I'm stronger than him. Kabuto's eyes widened, but that was the only response he could muster before Naruto had him flipping along the ground. And then, just above him, Naruto reappeared. Kaden. Rasengan, he exclaimed as he pushed the compressed flame ball in Kabuto's direction. Kabuto was caught in the shockwave and blown backwards several feet, but he managed to right himself and jump out of the way just in time. Kabuto thought to himself, what raw power, I may have bitten off more than I can chew here, as the flames and smoke subsided and a smiling Naruto emerged. Naruto chuckled and asked, Kabuto-kun, do you still think I have no chance? Kabuto had no response, so he simply jumped at Naruto and sparred with him briefly using taijutsu before using a chakra scalpel to stab Naruto in the arm. Kabuto and Naruto both leapt back to regain a moment. The two stared at each other for a moment before Naruto laughed and started talking. With his eyes changing into his Mangekyo, he remarked, well, I've had enough fun, time to finish this. Kabuto took a moment to look into his eyes. He stammered, T. That's the Sharingan, but how? Kabuto's eyes glazed over, and Naruto said, that's not important. Tsukiyomi. He screamed bloody murder and collapsed to the ground, unconscious, in a matter of seconds. Kabuto. Oro cried out as soon as he saw Kabuto fall, you little bastard, you're dead. Oro left his battle with Jiraiya and ran in Naruto's direction. Jiraiya shouted, Naruto run, because he couldn't get there in time to stop Orochimaru. Telling Oro, die pedophile, Naruto hurled a kunai at him. Unaware of what had transpired, he barked, pathetic brat, you can't even throw a kunai right. Oro's eyes widened as Naruto merely smirked at him before vanishing in a flash of yellow. Naruto screamed, Rasengan, and materialized behind Oro, holding a Rasengan in each hand before sending them into the snake's back. Oro exclaimed, ah, as the Rasengans ripped into his back and blasted him out. He was able to get up and shunshin to Kabuto before Jiraiya or Naruto could pursue him. He shouted, this isn't over. Konoha will burn, as the two dug into the earth. Naruto exclaimed, shit, they got away, after they had left. Jiraiya approached Naruto and said, it's okay, we'll get them some other time Gaki. We should head back now. Yay. Let's go, after a few days, returning to Konoha. So Chan, what do you think of revamping our shinobi medic program? Asked Naruto. Tsunade huffed and responded despite getting a tick mark from being referred to as grandma. I like the idea. I asked Sarutobi Sensei to do this years ago before I left the village, but he thought it was a bad idea. I think it is only wise to have more capable combat medics trained. It would reduce the amount of casualties dramatically. But the blonde shook his head when Tsunade said, I agree. Do you have any certain ideas you would like to see? No, you will have free reign over the program. The only thing is that I promised someone an interview. Don't feel inclined to accept them just because I recommended the interview though. The girl was an academy dropout but had good chakra control, so I just wanted to give her a chance with you. Fine, have her meet me at the hospital tomorrow morning at 9. As the Sannin got up and walked out of the room, Naruto said, will do, you're free to go. The following morning a Chunin burst through the door as Naruto sat at his desk, wondering how Tsunade's interview was going. The Chunin yelled, Hokage. Sama, Neji Hyuga is missing. Naruto went into serious mode right away. Any details? Possible kidnapping. There were unknown scents there, but there was no sign of a struggle, so we aren't sure. Naruto sent out a chakra beacon for Sasuke and Zabuza using the Anbu seals, saying, I see. Any clue which way he went? His scent lead out the north gate, but I didn't look any further until I talked to you. It appears he went missing some time last night and wasn't discovered until just now. As he passed through the seal to get Hinata, Naruto remarked, I see, dismissed. When Naruto and Hinata returned a few minutes later, they discovered Sasuke and Zabuza in his office, fully outfitted in Anbu gear. Before creating a shadow clone to monitor his work, Naruto stated, okay, we just received a report that Neji Hyuga was possibly kidnapped last night and is heading north of here. We're leaving now to find him. Before they all vanished in their different shunshins, the group nodded. After regrouping at the north gate, everyone fled to the trees to look for Neji. Hinata nodded when Naruto remarked, damn, I could use an Inuzuka's nose right now. Hina. Chan, can you search with your Byakugan? As the veins around her eyes swelled, she muttered, Byakugan. She looked around the immediate vicinity, then shook her head. Although I can't see anyone, it appears that they are still moving north. Hinata eventually stopped Naruto's group from jumping through the trees in pursuit of Neji by holding up a hand. Naruto.kun. I see 4 people up ahead gathered around a large vase. Looking object. From the vase, I can feel Neji's chakra. It was a kidnapping, then. Are you all set? All right, I'll take the 2 on the left. Zabuza, you take the big guy. Sasuke, get the girl, Naruto said as he withdrew a kunai. He repeated himself after a round of affirmative responses. I want you to run Hina. Chan and grab the vase while we engage them. When the group nodded again, Naruto raised his hand, dropped it, and threw his kunai at the crowd. He appeared in a flash of yellow, and before anyone could react, he had driven a Chidori through the gray-haired man's heart. He then turned and tried to hit the 6-armed man with another Chidori, but the man managed to dodge the blow and put some distance between them. Zabuza and Sasuke then appeared in the nearby field and charged towards their respective targets just as the 6-armed man landed. Kimimaro and Naruto looked down at each other, smiling as they waited for the other to initiate contact. Then, as if it were a sign from heaven, a single leaf fell between them, and as it touched the ground, they both vanished from view, clashed for a few feet, and then resurfaced. A quick series of hand seals was performed by Naruto. Raiden, Jibashi. As a huge bolt of lightning blasted from his hands in the direction of the Kagaya, he screamed. When a massive wall of dense bone appeared in front of him, Kimimaro simply touched a palm to the ground and said, Idaina Oku no Mai. Dance of the Great Oak. Naruto's lighting struck the wall of bone and exploded, scattering bone fragments all over the place. As Naruto charged towards him with a Rasengan in hand, Kimimaro looked a little shocked that the attack had managed to destroy his wall of bone, but he quickly recovered and swung his new whip towards Naruto, narrowly avoiding the attack by reaching to his back and pulling out his spine. Tessenka no Mai. Suru, he said. A shadow clone appeared next to Naruto, who flipped back to avoid the whip. Rasenbofu, Futon. As the clone completed a series of hand seals, the wind began to violently whip around, eventually turning into a tornado. As his right eye started to bleed and the tornado was sparked by the unquenchable black flames, the blonde exclaimed, Amaterasu. Mokuton. Jutsu no Kamikaze Arashi. As the tornado headed directly for Kimimaro, Naruto screamed, Inferno release, Divine Firestorm. For his part, Kimimaro actually appeared concerned about this one and started to flee as the tornado pursued him. He was able to evade the attack until its chakra ran out, at which point he struck Naruto with his whip once more and was able to capture him. Your time has come, but you have fought with honor. The Kagaya screamed in agony and halted mid-stab to focus on saving himself. Kimimaro's left arm transformed into a large, pointy drill, which he thrust towards Naruto with the intention of killing the blonde, but Naruto had other plans. His right eye started to bleed again before his Amaterasu set Kimimaro on fire. He rapidly grew a new layer of bone over his skin and blasted the old layer off, strewing the flames throughout the yard. Kimimaro stated, I must admit that you were quite a challenge, before he ended. Naruto. Namikaze Naruto. Similarly, Naruto answered. My name is Kimimaro. It has been an honor to take on a rival like you, win or lose. You as well. Let's continue, shall we? Kimimaro nodded in response to Naruto's response before performing some hand seals. As the ground started to rumble, Kimimaro uttered the words, Sawarabi no Mai. Naruto realized that this was a bad idea and that he was correct. He had hardly time to react when a big, pointed bone exploded from the ground where he was standing. He jumped to the side to avoid it, but as soon as he landed another shot out, he ran across the field with the same outcome, before finally jumping to the side of one of the bones and clinging with chakra as the bones continued to sprout along the field. When he was kicked in the back and flung across the field, he saw Kimimaro half fused with the large bone before he just vanished again, proving that he was safe for the time being because he couldn't see him anywhere. Naruto landed on another bone only to be knocked off again, this time removing a few of his special kunai and scattering them throughout the now formed bone forest before landing on one of the bones. He landed, dropped the final kunai, and then flashed away as Kimimaro emerged with a bone sword, determined to put an end to the battle. He only briefly reappeared across the field before flashing back to Kimimaro with a flaming ball of chakra. Kaden. Rasengan. I need to stop this quickly because I'm starting to feel the wear from using Kurama's chakra. Naruto yelled as he reappeared beneath the Kagaya and pushed the ball of fire into his chest, engulfing the man in flames and sending him flying out of the bone forest. Using his left hand, the blonde Hokage grasped his right forearm, and lightning soon started to cackle in his palm before intensifying and forming into a perfect sphere that glowed a bright blue, compressed slightly, and sounded like a flock of birds being run through a jet turbine. Despite being severely hurt in the first blow, Kimimaro managed to survive thanks to his bone defenses, but judging by the sound and appearance of this new jutsu, he was definitely done. He slowly fell back towards the ground, helpless to do anything but watch as the blonde vanished from view, and the next thing he knew, he was in excruciating pain and the world was turning white. Kimimaro was staring up at the sky when the light went out, breathing heavily, and his entire body ached. He knew he would die any moment now. With some difficulty, Kimimaro said, "Congratulations on your victory, Naruto-san. At least I was able to give my life doing what I believe in." Even though he should have been dead for a long time, Naruto managed to say a few final words as he gazed down at the pale teenage boy with the big hole in his heart. "Thank you, Kimimaro-san. Fighting you was an honor. We might have been friends in a different life." Naruto bowed his head at the loss of a great warrior, buried him with a simple Doden jutsu, and hurried off to catch up with Sasuke, while Kimimaro allowed a small smile to appear on his face as his breathing stopped. As the purple chakra erupted from the crater and whirled violently, Sasuke watched in wonder and said, "Shit, I hope Naruto catches up soon or I may be in trouble." He had to duck beneath a Jiyuken strike from Neji as soon as the thought occurred to him, and a visible wave of chakra blasted from his palm. The white-eyed teenager flipped backwards to avoid Sasuke's attempt to counter with a punch to Neji's stomach. "You must acknowledge that the Hyuga have always been superior to your clan, Uchiha. Now witness the strength of a true clan by dying by hand." Neji shouted frantically as he vanished once more and then resurfaced with his hand in Sasuke's abdomen. At the Valley of the End, Sasuke let out a painful grunt as the insane Hyuga blasted him out of the woods and onto the ground close to the feet of the massive statue of Madara Uchiha. He had hardly time to roll over before the ground exploded next to him. "Uchiha, can you see it now? Your destiny is to die here, and you cannot alter it." Neji turned and kicked Sasuke through the air once more while shouting. Sasuke was already performing hand seals when he was able to right himself in midair and land on his feet. "You're incorrect. For people who are incapable of taking responsibility for their own shortcomings, fate is merely a distorted fantasy. Let me now reveal the true superior clan to you. Kaden. Karyuenden." A huge stream of fire poured out of his mouth and engulfed the Hyuga as he screamed. A swirling blue ball lingered in the center of the desolate terrain as the flames subsided, and then it slowed to a halt, exposing Neji standing there unharmed. The Hyuga's supreme defense. No attack can get through it, Neji grinned. As chakra started to flow out of his body, Sasuke thought, "Thank you, you bushy-browed weirdo." He had used the attack as a diversion to remove his leg weights because he had half expected this to happen. Kaimon Kai. Hachiman as he vanished from view and reappeared across the field with his foot on Neji's face. Sasuke smirked and yelled, "8 inner gates. Gate of opening release." The young Hyuga was flung backwards and over the cliff, into the waters below. As he jumped into the valley, Sasuke remarked, "That about evens the playing field, I'd say." Nothing could have prepared him for what he saw when he landed on the water's surface. Neji stood on top of the water, his normally neat black hair standing up behind him in gray spikes. His nails had changed into long claws, a huge pair of bat-like wings had appeared from his back, his eyes, which had previously been white and pupilless, had turned black with a small four-point star in place of a pupil, and the swastika that had once adorned his forehead had changed into a barbed wire-like stripe that ran across his forehead and down his cheeks. Naruto's use of Kurama's chakra was the only person Sasuke had previously sensed possessing this kind of power. As he turned to face Sasuke, the monster Neji remarked, "You forced me to use my full power. Congratulations, Uchiha. I didn't think I'd have to go this far." After fighting back his nervousness and vanishing from view in the direction of the Hyuga, Sasuke was halfway there when he was kicked in the face, sending him flying into the valley wall. Before he could get away, Neji was on him again, kicking him even harder into the wall before leaping back and smiling. Sasuke, who was beginning to wear down from opening the first gate and getting kicked in the ass, grunted as he fell out of the crater and struggled to his feet. "I guess this is our last chance." "Kumon Kai," Hachiman said. "Kai Simon." As the chakra exploded all over his body and his skin turned red, Sasuke screamed. "Uchiha, quit attempting to fight fate." As the malevolent purple chakra gathered around his hand, Neji screamed and bounded in Sasuke's direction. Seeing the chakra form, Sasuke performed 3 quick hand seals and grabbed his wrist as lightning started to jump and cackle. He then covered his hand in a loose ball shape and leapt in Neji's direction. Raikiri. Hake Hisangeki. 8 trigrams Mountain Crusher. As the attacks clashed and a huge wave of chakra erupted around them, they both yelled simultaneously as they battled for supremacy. A huge dome of chakra materialized and briefly encased the two as they attempted to outmaneuver one another before exploding. As fast as he could, Naruto leapt through the trees to find his friend in the missing Hyuga, but before he could jump into the clearing, he saw the huge dome of chakra form and then burst. "Dude!" As he landed in the clearing, he shouted to himself and ran into the valley. He got there in time to witness Kabuto seizing Neji's motionless body as Orochimaru made his way to Sasuke, who was conscious but immobile because of the gates. Kabuto had a PTSD moment, passed out, and dropped the Hyuga as soon as he looked up and saw Naruto approaching them. Kabuto, shit. As he approached Kabuto and Neji before the three of them sank into the water and their chakra signal disappeared, Oro yelled and glared at the young Hokage. "It seems you've ruined my plans again, Naruto-kun. No matter, I will get what I desire. You snake, damn you." After stomping the water and shouting, Naruto turned to face Sasuke, who quickly joined him with a fire shunshin. "Are you okay?" He knelt down next to Sasuke and asked. "Does it appear that I'm doing okay?" Sasuke remarked, "My everything is broken from opening 3 of the gates," which made Naruto smile a little. "All right, perhaps that was a dumb question." He placed a hand on Sasuke's shoulder and said, "Let's get you to the hospital." The two vanished in a flash of yellow. After a few days. "Are you certain of that?" Sitting at his desk reviewing a recent mission report, Naruto uttered those words. "Yes, I had planned to take you, but you can't really leave the village for 3 years, can you, with all that's going on with the Hokage?" "Well, I guess I can't. As soon as he leaves the hospital, you are free to depart if that is what you wish to do. Until you return, I simply ask that you report every 3 months. I'll try, but you know how it gets with the research and training and all that. Anyway, I wish him luck and hope he returns stronger than I did." As he climbed out Naruto's office window and vanished, Jiraiya remarked, "That's a big shoe to fill, Arrow. Gaki. Sama, no promises." A week or so later, "Are you prepared to leave?" As they drew closer to the village gate, Jiraiya spoke. "I was born ready. Honor your seniors." The Uchiha glared at Jiraiya as he slapped Sasuke over the head and yelled. "Behave like you're older," Naruto yelled as he then slapped Jiraiya on the head, causing the Uchiha to laugh and the Toad Sage to glare. "Now then, as I said, I want reports every 3 months and any time you find anything extra suspicious." "Yes, there are no guarantees," Jiraiya said. "See you in a few years, Arrow. Gaki. Sama," and turned to go. Naruto smirked and said, "See you guys, better be ready for a contest when you get back, Sasuke. After I finish this training, it won't even be difficult." Before turning to catch up with Jiraiya, Sasuke said, "See you." Our blonde Hokage stood by the village gate and said, they should be back any time now. Naruto's appearance had changed significantly over the past 3 years. He was now about 5 feet 8 inches tall and somewhat beefier, and he still wore the same black shoes and khaki shorts with a blue shirt with a high-collar Jonin vest over the top, a long blue headband with tails running down his back, and, strangely, dark sunglasses. His Hokage trench coat, with the words, "Kitsune no Kami," running down the back, completed the ensemble. "Yes, it's unbelievable that 3 years have passed already." Hinata answered from his end, "It feels like they left yesterday." Even though she was still 6 inches shorter than Naruto, she had also grown taller and started wearing a blue tank top underneath the green Jonin vest, blue shinobi pants that ended just below the knees, and a gray trench coat that was similar to Enko's but only reached about mid-thigh. "I'm not joking. I can't wait to prove to Sasuke that I'm still more fierce by continuing my training." Hinata winced at the volume of Naruto's shout, and as she was ready to strike him in the back of the head, 2 figures appeared in the distance. "Is it them?" Hinata said, turning to face the figures. With a barely contained smile, Naruto remarked, "Yay, and Sasuke has gotten a lot stronger now, if his chakra reserves are any indication." The 2 figures arrived at the gate shortly after. "Hey Gaki. Hinata, hello." Jiraiya grinned broadly as she spoke. "Hi Dobi." As he observed Naruto's transformation, Sasuke remarked, "Why the shades?" Speaking of, Sasuke, like everyone else, had grown taller. He was now 5 feet 10 inches. He was dressed in a black cloak with the Uchiha crest on the back, a dark blue shirt, and khaki shorts. Think of his Part 1 outfit but add an Akatsuki cloak with no clouds. "Don't you think a Hokage needs to look good?" With a broad smile, Naruto answered, concealing the true reason he wore the glasses. Naruto glared at Sasuke as he laughed and said, "It'll take a lot more than some sunglasses to make you look good. They improve my appearance, but I still look good without them." Naruto held out both hands and said, "Anyway, let's go to my office so I can hear your final report." Sasuke and Jiraiya approached so he could place a hand on each of their shoulders, and Hinata put an arm around his waist before the group vanished in a burst of yellow light. Sitting in Naruto's office, Tsunade, Shizune, Kakashi, and Itachi awaited the group's return. Tsunade. "Sama, didn't Naruto-kun say that they should be back by now?" Shizune said, glancing up at the wall-mounted clock. Tsunade started to say, "Just be patient, I'm sure they'll be back but was cut off when a bright yellow light filled the room. "Speak of the devil and he will appear. You old pervert, it's good to see you again." Jiraiya grinned and said, "Likewise you old bat." Tsunade came over and hugged him, then immediately slammed his head into the floor for referring to her as old. Itachi walked over to Sasuke and embraced him, saying, "Welcome home, little brother. I'm glad to be back Ni-san. How have you and mom been?" "We've done well, but we'll finish later, Naruto has some things to say." With a simple nod, Sasuke turned to face Naruto, who had shifted to take a seat behind his desk. Before he spoke, Naruto took a pack of cigarettes from his coat pocket and lit one. "Any new intel, Jiraiya?" "Not much. Other than what we covered in the reports, I spoke with one of my contacts and from what he tells me, I believe Akatsuki will reveal themselves and make a move with the month." "I see. Do you know who their first target is?" "It's only a guess, but I'd say it would be logical to start at the bottom and work their way up." Naruto exclaimed, "Better guess than I've got." "Tenzo, as the Anbu captain suddenly materialize. Send a message to Suna and tell them to be on high alert for an attack by Akatsuki." Tenzo exclaimed, "Hi Hokage. Sama," and vanished as quickly as he had appeared. "Now then, I'm going to form a team that is to be ready on a moment's notice to go to Suna and back them up should they need it when and if they are attacked, but I'll take care of that tomorrow morning. For now, I want to report on Sasuke's progress." Jiraiya smiled and said, "Well, you'll have to see for yourself. All I'll say is that I hope you didn't slack on your training these past 3 years." Sasuke grinned in return. Naruto smiled at the Uchiha and remarked, "Sounds like a plan to me. Are you ready to test your skills, Sasuke?" Before the small group took off, Sasuke said, "Lead the way, Hokage." "Sama." The group arrived at the newly renovated Konoha Stadium after a few minutes of running. It had seals to safeguard the stadium and the surrounding areas, and it was roughly twice as large as the previous one. As he took in the scenery, Sasuke remarked, "Wow, this place is a lot different than I remember." Sasuke merely nodded when Naruto said, "Yay, I figured we needed somewhere big to do this." At that moment, Sasuke became aware of everyone watching the fight from the stands. The senseis of the Konoha 12, Temari, and K-12, as well as a number of other Jonin and Anbu, were all present to witness what may have been two of their most formidable shinobi engage in combat. Sasuke returned his focus to Naruto and remarked, "Looks like you expected this fight or something, huh?" Naruto started stretching and said, "I wouldn't have it any other way, you ready?" Sasuke smirked as he dropped multiple weights, creating craters in the ground where they landed. "Of course I am. How about we go all out from the start though?" he said. Naruto responded, "If that's what you want." Kai, as a number of seals that covered his exposed body briefly glowed before fading away. Then he picked up his sunglasses and tossed them aside. Sasuke exclaimed, "What the hell?" while focusing on Naruto's eyes. They were now made up of 3 purple rings that were concentric, with 3 tomo slowly rotating around the innermost ring. Is that the Rinnegan? I've taken to calling it the Seihigan, Seijai, but essentially yes. It is a combination of the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. Sasuke gazed at the eyes and exclaimed, "No way man, that is cool as hell." As his 3 tomos started to spin and eventually combined into 3 overlapping ellipticals, he added, "But I too have a surprise." At his friend's advancement, Naruto grinned. As the 2 boys leapt apart, Naruto uttered the words, "Sweet, now let's do this." Immediately, a haze of red chakra enveloped Naruto, and 6 tails began to wave behind him. As chakra violently whipped around him, Sasuke's skin turned red and his hair stood on end. He yelled, "Hachiman! Kaimon! Kumon! Simon! Shoman! Toman! Kimon! Kai!" Gates 1.6 release. Even through the barrier seals, the stadium trembled from the pressure of the 2 enormous chakra sources. Before the ground exploded in multiple locations throughout the stadium, Naruto uttered the words, "6 gates, huh? You really are serious?" It was shady at best, and the two were moving so quickly that only Itachi and Kakashi could possibly keep up. Sasuke remarked, "Not bad for Adobe," as he and Naruto engaged in another taijutsu battle. Naruto screamed, "I'm just getting started," as he kicked Sasuke into the wall and across the stadium, then landed and started performing hand seals. Kaden. Daikaryuenden no Jutsu. From Naruto's mouth, a stream of flames that was almost as wide as the stadium itself erupted, covering the wall where Sasuke had been last seen. Naruto smiled as the flames eventually subsided. "I knew you wouldn't go down so easy." Since the smoke was still blocking their view, the crowd, aside from Itachi and Kakashi, did not understand what he meant. When the smoke finally cleared, Sasuke was seen standing inside a huge, pale purple, spectral demon soldier, smiling maniacally. Sasuke swung his arm out and threw several Amaterasu flame Magatama at Naruto, who merely smiled. "Of course not, I still have plenty of tricks up my sleeve. Enten. Susanoo Kagutsuchi," he cried. Naruto extended his arm just before the Magatama struck him, before he smiled wider and exclaimed, "Shinra Tensai." Everyone thought he was insane. Some invisible force immediately stopped the Magatama in midair and then repelled them away. But Sasuke wasn't deterred, and he and his Susanoo darted across the field, swung his sword down at Naruto with a speed that was unexpected for someone so big. Naruto smiled again and extended an arm, but this time it was covered in a blackish red arm that used its claws to block the sword as it spread to the rest of his body before taking on Sasuke's full form, with the exception that the head was more fox-like than Sasuke's horned demon. Kakashi asked no one in particular, "Is this what it was like at the Valley of the End when Hashirama and Madara fought?" The nearby Sannin nodded when Itachi retorted, "No, they're just sparring. If they were trying to kill each other the village would be in ruin, barrier or not." Naruto exclaimed, "Sasuke, witness the might of a nin genjutsu hybrid," as his left eye started to bleed. Sasuke waited anxiously to find out what was going on, but nothing materialized. That is, until Naruto, Susanoo included, vanished in a blaze of blood red and then reappeared directly in front of Sasuke, his sword piercing Sasuke's Susanoo's stomach. As his Susanoo fell apart, Sasuke questioned, "How did you do that without sealing me?" Naruto also released his "My newest jutsu, I use Tsukiyomi to create an image and then Yin release to actually create it. Doing so allows me to form Hiraishin seals wherever I look," he clarified as Sasuke appeared astonished. "Being the Hokage sure didn't cut down on your training time, did it?" Naruto grinned and replied, "Nah, shadow clones are great for that kind of thing. Got any more tricks?" As he performed some hand seals and slammed his palm to the ground, Sasuke exclaimed, "A couple. Kachiyose no jutsu." Naruto followed suit. A thick cloud of smoke briefly enveloped the arena before clearing to reveal Sasuke perched atop a massive hawk and Naruto perched atop Gamakichi, with a rhino on one side and a large three-headed dog on the other. With a furious, anime-style wave of his arms, Sasuke exclaimed, "What the fuck? Do you have a solution for everything?" As Gamakichi spat out a huge stream of oil, Naruto yelled, "I'm not the Hokage for nothing. Kichi, give me oil," he concluded, Mokuton. Gamainden, as he used his Amaterasu to light the oil stream. Sasuke shouted, "Takamasuda, do your thing," as the hawk in question flailed its wings, obstructing the big fireball with a windstorm. "Now get me in close." After acknowledging with a squawk, the big hawk bombed Naruto. While Sasuke flew towards Naruto with a perfect sphere of lightning cackling in his palm, the big dog swung out and bit the hawk as it was about to approach, sending it back to the summon realm. At Sasuke's latest attack, Naruto smiled again before the same thing formed in his hand and he leapt off Kichi's head to face Sasuke in the center. Both teenagers yelled, "Raiden! Rasengan!" as they collided in midair. Most of the crowd was blinded by a huge explosion, and when the light subsided, there was a deep crater in the ground where the two boys met, but no boys were there. At that moment, they all saw a number of sporadic explosions around the field once more, with lightning arcs, fireballs, and wind blades completely destroying the surrounding area. The explosions ceased for a moment, and the two boys stood across the field, gazing at one another, before Naruto smiled once more, "Out of tricks?" With light pants, Sasuke answered, "Pretty much." When the stadium's atmosphere grew so dense that the younger members of the crowd were having difficulty breathing, Naruto remarked, "I've still got a few. Here's one of them." When Naruto extended his hand, a number of tiny black and white balls started to combine to form a single, larger jet black ball. With a shout of, "Bijudama," Naruto hurled the ball in Sasuke's direction. After a brief moment of near panic, Sasuke recalled a technique he had discovered that might be able to prevent this. His hands slammed to the floor in a hurry. He yelled, "Kachiyose! Sanju Rashoman!" as 3 enormous demon gates materialized out of the earth between him and the dreadful assault. The entire stadium was blinded by the explosion as the ball crashed into the gates. Sasuke was still alive when the intense light faded, but the first 2 gates were entirely gone and the third was severely damaged. Sasuke fell to his knees and said, "Okay, you win." Then Naruto appeared and assisted him in standing up. Naruto smiled as he said, "Good job, Sasuke. Now let's get you home so you can rest." Then, as the 2 vanished in a whirl of leaves, Itachi leapt to his feet, seized Sasuke, and bid Naruto farewell. Hinata gave Naruto a hug and exclaimed, "Good job, Naruto-kun," as she materialized next to him in a current of water. Naruto kissed Hina's cheek and said, "Thanks, Hina." "Hime." Jiraiya nodded in response to his instruction before he and Tsunade vanished in twin swirls of leaves, heading somewhere unknown. He then looked up and said, "Jiraiya, meet me in my office in an hour. Everyone else, we will have a welcome home party for Sasuke at the Hokage Tower's conference room tomorrow night so you can welcome him back." Barkov. However, the K.12 hardly noticed him speaking. The power they had just seen from their Hokage and his best friend left them all in awe. They were astounded by Naruto's strength because they hadn't seen him battle anyone in a long time and Sasuke hadn't been around for 3 years. Naruto saw that everyone in the group was dozing off, as he had assumed they would be. Before he and Hinata vanished in a burst of yellow, he smiled slightly. When they returned to Naruto's office, he lit up a cigarette at his desk once more. "Hina. Hime, you can go on home if you want, and I'll be there shortly. I'm going to review the rosters to assemble that team I mentioned earlier." Hinata walked over and gave him a long, passionate kiss after saying, "Hi Naruto-kun. I'll signal for you when supper is ready." When she heard a desperate knock on the office door, she decided to wait and see what was going on instead of turning to go and starting to perform the hand seals needed to open the door to their house. Before the door flew open and a tired Chunin who looked as though he had run a long distance was revealed, Naruto commanded, "Enter." "Hokage. Sama, we just received a message from Suna. Akatsuki attacked their village and kidnapped Gaara." For a moment, Naruto lost his temper and crushed the corner of his big wooden desk, which he was unaware he was holding onto. Naruto shouted, "Shit, Akuma," to no one in particular. In less than a minute, Zabuza was waiting for Naruto to give him orders while wearing his Anbu outfit and demon mask. Before Zabuza bowed and vanished into the mist, Naruto declared with absolute authority, "Akatsuki has attacked Suna and kidnapped the Cage. I want you to find Shikamaru, Tamari, Ino, and Kakashi and meet me at the West Gate in 30 minutes. Hinata. Chan, find Itachi and tell him that he is in charge while I am gone. I'll be home soon, Hime. I love you." Before Naruto vanished in a burst of yellow, Hinata said, "Hi. Be careful, Naruto-kun. I love you too." After half an hour, wondering what the mission was, the group Naruto had designated was now waiting to depart at the gate. In particular, Tamari questioned her involvement because she wasn't a Konoha shinobi. At this point, Tamari understood why she had been informed and started to worry right away. "Okay, here's the deal. Akatsuki moved sooner than expected. We received a distress signal from Suna." With a shout, Naruto said, "Apparently Akatsuki attacked the village and kidnapped Gaara. Our mission is to find him and return him home unharmed. Now this group is too large for me to transport across that long a distance with Hireishin, so we are on foot. If anything happens to me, Kakashi will be in charge. Move out." The group immediately fled into the trees and started their journey to Suna. For the next 2 days, the group ran almost continuously, stopping only for brief rests to maintain their energy levels. When they arrived in Suna, they were shown straight to the council room. One of the elder council members pointed to an empty chair close by and said, "Thank you for coming to our aid in such a timely manner, Hokage. Sama. Please take a seat and we will explain the situation." The elder went on after Naruto was seated and his entourage was behind him. "As you know from the message we sent to you, we were attacked by Akatsuki yesterday. There were 2 of them in the group in Gaara. Sama fought hard to defend us, but he was eventually overwhelmed. All the information we have is that one of the attackers used explosion techniques, and the other one is Sasori, from our own village." The elderly man nodded when Naruto asked, "Akasuna no Sasori. All right, which way did they go when they left the village?" "They left towards the north. The Anbu team we sent to track them has yet to return, so we don't know much." Naruto said, "I see. Okay team, we move out in 1 hour, Get some rest until then. Then he noticed an elderly woman staring at him as though she was considering speaking to him. According to what I understand, calling someone granny in Japanese culture is not an insult. Rather, it is used similarly to how Americans refer to brother to someone their own age, unless it is directed at Tsunade. Do you need something, Granny Chio? Actually, I was wondering if you minded if I tag along with your team. Thanks for the offer, but I believe we have enough manpower to rescue Gaara. It's actually more of a personal vendetta. I ask you to let me go simply because Sasori is my grandson and I blame myself for the way he turned out, and I'd like to correct my mistake. I can understand that. If you want to, you can come. We'll be leaving out in about 30 minutes. Chio answered, Hi, I'm ready to go when you are. After that, Naruto went to sit with his group and relax until it was time to depart. After half an hour, Naruto yelled, Everyone ready? And received nods from Chio and his group. While Kankuro was in the hospital following the recent attack, Tamari chose to stay behind and let Konoha handle the situation. Alright then, Kakashi, if you would. Kakashi performed a series of hand seals while biting his thumb. Touching his palm to the floor, he exclaimed, Kachiyose no Jutsu. When the little puff of smoke subsided, a tiny pug with a Konoha Hite.8 on his forehead was standing there. As he surveyed the group, the dog exclaimed, Yo Kakashi. As Naruto held out a ripped piece of cloth for him to smell, Kakashi remarked, Hey Pakun, think you could lead us to the cage? After a minute of sniffing, Pakun nodded. He said, Yay, I can smell his trail. Follow me. And then he took off, jumping into the trees as Naruto and his group followed. The location is unknown. 2 days prior, a big statue with 9 closed eyes had 9 figures standing on its fingers. 2 of the figures were present in person, while 7 of them seemed to be merely astral projections. The group's apparent leader said, Okay, from now on the sealing process will take 3 days and nights. Be mindful of your real bodies. Zetsu, use your real body as a lookout. The man's astral projection showed only 3 concentric rings around his pupils and spiky hair. The man who appeared to be a Venus flytrap merely nodded in recognition. The blonde-haired, feminine-looking man who was present in person asked, Won't it take longer than 3 days with Orochi, Temegon? A huge ball of light appeared in the statue's mouth before breaking into 9 dragon-shaped beams. The apparent leader said, If you believe it will, then we shouldn't waste any time, Deidara. Let us begin. Genryu Q Fuin. Phantom Dragon's 9 consuming seals. Before they all turned and struck the unconscious Gaara's chest, which was lying on the ground between the hands, the dragons briefly waved around in the air. With a grunt of pain, Gaara's body started to float into the air as his body was immediately covered in light. Pakun stopped on a tree branch after the Konoha team had been traveling for several hours. They're just ahead, we should stop and rest for a moment before continuing on. After Kakashi nodded and Naruto said, Thanks Pakun, we can take it from here. Pakun then bid him farewell and vanished in a puff of smoke. Before using his Seigen to look ahead and try to locate the chakra signatures, which were all underground, Naruto said, Okay guys, we rest here for an hour tops, and then we move out. Proceed with caution, these guys are S-ranked missing nin, they will be stronger than you have ever faced before. If possible, leave the fighting to Kakashi, Zabuza, and myself. Returning to Akatsuki while the group was still performing the sealing ritual, Zetsu abruptly said, Leader Sama, there is a squad of 5 Konoha nin and 1 Suna nin approaching us. The Hokage and Kakashi Hitaki are among them. The group responded with a few cheers when Leader Sama said, Thank you Zetsu. Kisame, Raiga, Hidan. Use that jutsu to stall them, we are nearing completion. Kisame leave me 30%, Raiga and Hidan leave 50%. Yes. Jashin. Sama will be sacrificed with their blood. The picture of the man carrying a 3-bladed scythe cried out. Very lovely, they'll make a fantastic funeral, Rado spoke from his position. Kisame simply grinned to himself, and the 3 swiftly performed their jutsu and hand seals. The group stood up and prepared to depart when Naruto said, Okay, let's move out. We are about a mile away, so expect heavy resistance once we get close. The group then leapt back into the trees and carried on. Before they could go very far, a voice interrupted them. A voice shouted from ahead of the group, Well, if it isn't the Hokage, the copy nin, and my old friend Zabuza. It's so nice to see you all like this. They saw the 3 Akatsuki members standing in front of them as soon as they leapt from the trees to the ground. Naruto looked at Hidan and trailed off, likewise, Kisame, Raiga, and the name's Hidan, and I'm here to sacrifice your heathen blood to Jashin, Sama. Okay, Hidan. Sorry to inform you guys, but you have a friend of mine and I intend to take him back home safely. Kisami's smile widened as he pulled Samahata off his back and said, I love bursting your bubble, Hokage. Sama, but he will be dead within the hour, and it'll take you that long to get through us, that's if you even survive. After declaring, Kisami's mine, I've got a score to settle with him. Zabuza disappeared in Kisami's direction. Shika. Back Zabuza up but don't interfere unless you have to. Kakashi, you and Ino take care of Hidan. Ino, same goes for you, don't interfere unless you have to or you get a clear shot. I'll take Raiga. Shio, you come with me but stay back, your fight is with Sasori and he's not here. Naruto instructed the group as they divided up. With a few tears streaming down his face, Raiga remarked, Ah, you hurt my feelings, Kyuubi. I wanted to give someone a lovely funeral, but I can't kill you. Suddenly he began to laugh uncontrollably. He yelled, Oh well, I'll just give your friends a funeral after I capture you, and raised both of his swords in the air after removing them from his back. As lightning arced through the clouds, rain began to fall and the clouds turned black. Raiga shouted, Reiryu no Tatsumaki. As lightning struck his swords from the clouds, he started spinning rapidly until a dragon-like shape emerged in the lighting. Grasping Kakashi's right wrist with his left hand, Naruto thought to himself, well, let's see if what they say about Kakashi's jutsu is true. As 1,000 chirping birds filled the air, lightning started to cackle around his palm and dance to the ground, tearing up big chunks of rock. While Naruto ran as quickly as he could in the direction of Raiga's lightning dragon, the dragon swung at him with blinding speed. When they came together in the center, Naruto yelled, Raikiri, and slammed his palm straight into the dragon, severing it in two and eliminating the technique. After that, Naruto began applying a number of hand seals. Naruto shouted, Kaden, Karyuenden, as he blasted a massive column of fire in the Akatsuki nin's direction. Raiga swiftly joined his swords at the hilt and spun them before him, covering his body with lightning. He screamed, Reigeki no Yoroi, as the flames consumed him. Naruto immediately leapt back to put some distance between them after realizing he had blocked the attack. When the fire subsided, Raiga was seen grinning while standing in the center of a burned area of the ground. With a broad smile, he exclaimed, Come on Kyuubi-boy, is that all you've got? Before vanishing from his position, leaving a trail of earth ripped from his lightning armor. Because of his Seihigan, Naruto was able to follow Raiga's movements with ease. He swiftly removed his own sword from his back in order to block Raiga's slash. After a brief exchange of blows, Naruto spotted a gap and quickly struck Raiga in the chest with his palm. As he made contact, Naruto yelled, Shinra Tensai, and blasted the bipolar swordsman through a few trees and away from him. During a confrontation with Zabuza, Kisame grinned broadly and said, Well, if it isn't little Zabuza. Chan, I never imagined you working for Konoha. Zabuza responded with a smirk of his own, which was hidden by the mask covering his lower face. I personally didn't either, but then again I never saw you abandoning Kiri for the likes of Akatsuki either. It's good work, keeps me in a steady supply of fights. Zabuza blurred out of view, only to reappear right next to Kisame, both of their big swords locked together, fighting for supremacy. You always did love to get your hands dirty. That being the case, don't let me spoil the fun. The two parted ways and separated after a brief period of time. They both started performing hand seals right away. Zabuza and Kisame simultaneously exclaimed, Sweden, Suiryuenden no Jutsu, Sweden, Suikoden no Jutsu, or both. While Kisame thrust his right hand forward and blasted out his own column of water, which took the shape of a shark, Zabuza spewed out a huge column of water that resembled a dragon as it rushed towards him. For a moment, the two attacks clashed and struggled for control before both detonated, shrouding the area in a fine mist. For two former swordsmen of the mist, this was the norm, but normally it would be an issue. Zabuza remained steadfast, closing his eyes to concentrate on his other senses, as he was accustomed to doing. After a moment's hesitation, he threw Kabikirabocho to his left, colliding with Samahata in a shower of sparks. As Zabuza stopped his blow, Kisame remarked, I see your time in Konoha hasn't dulled your skills any. As he swung his blade, intending to cut Kisame in two, Zabuza muttered behind him, of course not. Kisame merely grinned as the blade sliced cleanly through his waist before exploding into water puddles along with the Zabuza who deflected his blow. Kisame wasn't the only one who liked a good fight. Zabuza just smiled at this. Looks like Jashin. Sama is smiling down on me today. I get two playthings. I will take both of you heathens as a sacrifice for him, Hidan yelled with an erratic tone. With his usual, I don't give a fuck attitude, Kakashi remarked, well, You're a bit out there. Hidan almost screamed, "You heathen bastard, don't you dare insult Jashin Sama," before rushing toward Kakashi, his big scythe poised to strike. For his part, Kakashi actually looked up from his Icha book for a moment before lowering his gaze again and using his free hand to draw a kunai. When Hidan got to him, he grinned, assuming the heathen had misjudged him and that he would be easily killed. With the intention of swiftly beheading Kakashi, he swung the three-bladed scythe directly at his neck. Without ever taking his eyes off the small orange book, Kakashi lifted his kunai and deflected the blow. The fact that Kakashi blocked Hidan's attack without even looking infuriated him. Hidan screamed, "Don't fucking treat me like a fucking pushover, Jashin Sama will have your blood," as he repeatedly struck Kakashi, who dodged each blow without ever raising his head from his book. After a brief period of time spent blocking the slashes, Kakashi closed the book with a small laugh. Great chapter. Now who are you again? A.N. Not that Kakashi wasn't paying attention, just using his hip attitude, like he does with Guy. A bit of psychological warfare. Hidan slashed at Kakashi again, shouting, "My fucking name is Hidan. I am Jashin Sama's most devoted follower, and I intend on offering you as a sacrifice to his honor." As she observed the strange exchange between the two, Ino was perplexed. Kakashi was on the verge of giving Hidan a stroke, but he had not left his position. Strange, huh? Kakashi said casually, "Jashin Sama you say? Never heard of him. Must not be such a great god after all." Large veins could now be seen running the length of Hidan's body. On the top number, Ino assumed his blood pressure was close to 300. Hidan retreated for a moment before charging back in for another attack, yelling, "Jashin Sama is the best fucking god there is. All will fucking bow in his fucking honor, you goddamn godless fucking heathen." Knowing that a single attack wouldn't be enough to defeat such a formidable foe, Naruto stood poised and ready. The ground started to tremble around him, proving that his patience had paid off. After drawing a tri-pronged kunai and waiting for another opportunity, Naruto swiftly threw the weapon into the air and vanished in a burst of light. Lighting started to arc and burst out of the ground everywhere as Naruto teleported away, essentially destroying the entire field. As the lightning subsided, Raiga exclaimed, "Reiso Dai Ikazuki no Utage. Lightning Burial, Great Banquet of Lightning." Raiga said, "Come out and play Kyuubi, I'd hate for you to miss the funeral of your friends," as he emerged from the woods where he had been wrecked earlier. He heard a voice behind him abruptly. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, and the voice said, "I wouldn't miss it for the world, but unfortunately for you, that day is years from now." He noticed that the tip of a tanto covered in lightning chakra was sticking out of his chest when he looked down. He turned his head to face Naruto's glare. As he tore the sword from the side of Raiga's chest and let the lifeless body drop to the ground, Naruto uttered the words in a low voice, "Nobody fucks with my friends." The most bizarre thing Naruto had ever witnessed occurred as he bent over to seal the body into a scroll. After hastily sealing the body, he departed to assist his team. As he dashed in the direction of the other chakra signatures, he asked himself, what the fuck was that about? As Zabuza and Kisame clashed with their enormous blades, sparks burst into the air once more. If the ripped up ground and slashed trees were any indication, the two had been engaged in a fierce kenjutsu battle for a while. With huge smiles on their faces and panting, the two leapt back to get some distance. Zabuza nodded when Kisame remarked, "It's been a while since I had this much fun." "Likewise, but as fun as it's been, I need to wrap things up here. I have a mission to complete. While I understand where you're coming from, I'm not just gonna roll over and play dead for you, ya know. I wouldn't have it any other way," Zabuza exclaimed, vanishing from his position before he and Kisame clashed once more. They continued fighting until Zabuza lost control, was slashed in the side, flung back a number of feet, and fell into a pool of water. When Kisame felt a sudden, sharp pain on the left side of his chest, he was still a little unsteady from striking Zabuza. Zabuza had buried a kunai to the hilt in his left lung when he turned to face him. He just smiled while Zabuza decapitated Kisame by tearing out the kunai and swinging Kabikirabocho around. Zabuza saw something odd about the head as it dropped to the ground and rolled off, and he put the information away to inquire about it later. Shikamaru, who had contentedly refrained from participating in the battle, also observed the phenomenon and had a theory, but he chose to ask Naruto when they next met. So annoying. In a hurry, the two leapt to the trees and went to Kakashi's battle to check on him. Observing the fight between Kakashi and Hidan, Naruto, Zabuza, and Shikamaru all landed simultaneously next to Ino in the small clearing. Kakashi was still standing where he was, and Hidan was attacking him non-stop. Kakashi repelled another slash from the furious Hidan, saying, "Look, all I'm saying is that if Jashin-sama was so great, wouldn't he have more followers? AHHHHHHHHHHH. Just think of the commotion Gaara made when Sasuke Chidori'd him during the Chunin exams." With his right arm hanging numbly by his side and the right side of his face drooping, Hidan let out a shriek. In a slurred voice, Hidan exclaimed, "Iu Sumbish! Iu Dar Inshal Jasim! Dama again!" and attempted to attack Kakashi once more, but he collapsed when his right leg failed to move properly. Ino, Shikamaru, Zabuza, and Naruto all started to perspire. Naruto deadpanned. Did he really just win a fight by causing his opponent a stroke? Before he collapsed to the ground in laughter, Zabuza uttered the words, "That is fucking priceless." Both Shimaru and Ino were unable to speak. With a smile on his face, Kakashi approached the still slurred, swearing Hidan and said, "Welp, that's that. Now have we learned our lesson about keeping our emotions in check?" Hidan exclaimed, "Fuck you," before Kakashi killed him by thrusting a kunai into his eye socket. Kakashi then turned to face his audience, which included Shikamaru and Ino, who were both in the dark, Naruto, who had a perplexed expression, and Zabuza, who was holding his sides to stop the laughter. He smiled at them and said, "Whatever works, right?" Though everyone else heard him and laughed, Naruto mainly spoke to himself when he said, "Yeah sure, why the fuck not? I've seen it all now. Anyways, there is something odd here. Why did the bodies change after they were killed?" Then Kakashi turned to face Hidan, but a random Suna shinobi had taken his place. Kakashi shrugged and remarked, "It must have been some kind of henge technique to fool us." "No, I don't think it was that simple. I fought Raiga once before in the personality and jutsu and everything was spot on," Naruto replied. "Kisame too. The guy the first fought was exactly like Kisame has always been. Maybe it was a type of cloning jutsu, like a body double, or something, that required a sacrifice to use." Naruto looked at Shikamaru, who merely nodded, and remarked, "That makes sense, it's kind of like the Edo Tensei." As everyone went to sit down and recuperate from the earlier battles, Naruto remarked, "Okay then, we move out again in 20 minutes, rest up."
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.